Chapter 689. He opened his mouth, but his voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzzing. He was easily embarrassed, and it could even be said that he was a child who never took the initiative. He took the initiative to approach him and talk to him, but Yu was a little cold and avoided his intimacy. Xiao Yichen felt wronged. Yichen, I like you. The last 3 words were barely audible. I like you. Xiao Yichen wanted to confess loudly. He didn't want his brother to be so distant from him. He wouldn't fight with his brother for mommy. He would be like mommy and protect his brother well and dote on him. Wasn't that good? We are. Xiao Yichen was so anxious that his face turned red. He wanted to say that sentence urgently, but because of his anxiety, he was a little incoherent. In his heart, he kept repeating the same sentence. We are a family. We are a family. I am your older brother, and you are my younger brother. We are a family. I will dote on you like mommy, protect you, and not let anyone bully you. However, Yu stood at the side from the beginning to the end. He looked down and turned his face to the side, not looking at them. Yin Shishir couldn't stand it anymore. She walked over and squatted beside him. Seeing that he was biting his lip in a fit of pique, she helplessly comforted him. Yu, don't throw a tantrum. I'm not. Yu looked at her with reddened eyes. His gaze was affectionate and a little helpless. Mommy, I don't want daddy or brother. I only want you. I don't want them. Behind him, Xiao Yichen looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He was stunned and his body was extremely cold. Mu Yaja's expression was calm. Yu's reaction was as he had expected. This child's possessiveness towards Yin Shishir was unusually strong. Yu was a stubborn child. No one could change the fact that he had decided on. Yin Shishir didn't expect this child to be so stubborn. She was angry and amused at the same time. Yu, be good. Don't mess around. I'm not messing around. Yu hugged her tightly and said helplessly. I don't like them. I tried to accept them, but Yu couldn't do it. Yu only wanted mommy. Mommy was enough. Was it not enough for mommy to have Yu? Yu can protect mommy, raise mommy, and love mommy. Yu. Yin Shishir held her forehead and let out a long sigh. Her heart ached a little. She had never seen Yu so helpless before. His eyes were filled with fear, as if he was about to lose her. Despair. But he wouldn't lose her. Could it be that in this family, there would be another daddy, another older brother to accompany him and dote on him? Her love for him would not decrease either. Wasn't that good? Yu, he's your older brother. He'll dote on you and love you just like mommy does. Xiao Yichen immediately nodded vigorously. Then he looked at his face with a pair of eager and hopeful eyes. Even if he nodded, Xiao Yichen wouldn't be able to control himself, and would hug him tightly in joy. Yu followed Yin Shishir's voice and turned to look at Xiao Yichen, who was standing behind her. This child had the same appearance and facial features as him. There were very few twins who looked like them. Their facial features were so similar that it was as if they were cast from the same mold. If the 2 little lads stood together, regardless of height, it was almost impossible to tell them apart. But in the end he could only shake his head in disappointment and close his eyes. It was as if he was escaping. Chapter 690. Mommy is fierce. Yu stared at her innocently with his big, clear eyes as though he was silently accusing her. Yu is disobedient. Yin Shishir frowned and looked at him angrily. Yu had never seen Yin Shishir angry. She had always been as gentle as water and had never been angry with him. However, she actually said that he was disobedient because of them. How was he disobedient? Yu pursed his lips and clenched his fists tightly. He released them and clenched them again. He said sadly, Mommy is stupid. Yu, don't bother with mommy. With that, the little guy ran back to the bedroom in a fit of pique. Bang! He slammed the door shut. In the living room, the 3 of them looked at each other and smiled helplessly. Xiao Yichen said sadly, Mommy, did I make little brother angry? In the bedroom, Yu buried himself in the blanket and covered himself with it in a fit of pique. His small body curled up into a ball under the blanket and hugged himself tightly like a helpless baby. His eyes had long dried up, and there were no more tears. However, his heart felt as though it had been viciously ripped open by a sharp object, and was bleeding profusely. The door was slowly opened, and the sound of light footsteps came to the bedside. Was it Mommy? Did Mommy come to coax him because she was afraid that he would be angry and sad? Yu Yu carefully lifted a corner of the blanket and saw Xiao Yichen's bright and sunny smile. It was as though a huge hole had opened up in the darkness. The sunlight shone through the hole, and it was warm. Yu Yu was stunned and his eyes widened. Yu Yu. Xiao Yichen called his name carefully. His face was so gentle that it was almost dripping with water. His heart skipped a beat. The grievance in Yu Yu's eyes faded a little. What? Yu Yu, I. Xiao Yichen gritted his teeth and said somewhat awkwardly, I like you, Yu Yu. I know. Yu Yu was a little arrogant. He snorted as if he was embarrassed and quickly covered his face with the blanket again. At this moment, Yu Yu's handsome little face was slightly hot because of Xiao Yichen's shy confession. Xiao Yichen grabbed a corner of the blanket and smiled. It's okay if you don't like me. I'll protect you. I know you're afraid that I'll steal your mommy from you, right? Little Munchkin remained silent under the blanket. Xiao Yichen blinked and smiled. Don't worry, I won't steal your mommy. Because I'm the older brother. I'll let you have your way. I don't want you to let me down. Little Munchkin's muffled voice came from under the blanket. Mommy was originally mine, humph. I know. Seeing that he was willing to talk to him, Xiao Yichen was a little happy. When he first met Yin Tianyu, he had a strange feeling. This child was clearly covered in thorns like a small hedgehog, but he still felt a sense of closeness toward him. He liked him. From the first time he saw him, he liked this younger brother. He was smart, cute, and sometimes had a sharp tongue. He even deliberately teased him with difficult math questions. Still, he was so smart and cute. Brother, don't be angry. It's my fault today. I wanted to play with you and made you sad. I won't do it again. He sincerely explained. Yu Yu's face flashed with surprise. He was a little surprised. Chapter 691. Separated by the blanket, Xiao Yichen opened his arms and hugged him gently and carefully. Under the blanket, Yu Yu felt his brother's closeness and his face flushed red. Xiao Yichen's hug made him so nervous that he didn't know where to put his hands. Then there was a long, suffocating silence. After some time, a box-like object was stuffed in a corner of the blanket. He didn't know what it was, but he heard Xiao Yichen say in a cheerful voice, Hey! This is your brother's gift to you. He had specially prepared this gift for him before he came. It was his gift to his brother. Xiao Yichen's footsteps could be heard from outside the blanket. Then there was the sound of the door closing softly. Yu Yu poked his head out of the blanket and took out the object that Xiao Yichen had stuffed into the blanket. Under the light, he saw an exquisitely wrapped gift. Was it a gift? This fellow was quite attentive. He didn't seem as annoying as he thought. Yu Yu's eyes curved slightly, and a hint of a smile appeared at the corners of his lips. He didn't even realize that when he held the gift in his hands, the corners of his lips were curled up in satisfaction. After dinner, Xiao Yichen sat in the front passenger seat in the car. He seemed to be in a good mood, and the corners of his lips were always curled up. Mu Yaja glanced at him from the corner of his eye and couldn't help but ask, What gift did you give your brother? It's a secret. I'm not going to tell Daddy. Xiao Yichen deliberately made a face mysteriously and then said shyly, My brother will definitely like my gift. Mu Yaja teased, But your brother doesn't seem to like you. My brother will definitely like me. Xiao Yichen leaned against the window and looked at the bright moon in the sky as he vowed solemnly. At night, before the lights were turned off, Yin Shishir walked into the room and saw that Yu Yu was still sitting on the bed, playing with the exquisite gift in his hands. The gift was still beautifully wrapped. Although he didn't want to admit it in his heart, he was actually a little reluctant to open the gift. Yin Shishir walked to the bedside. Yu Yu immediately came back to her senses. She hid the gift under the pillow and looked at him warily. Is this a gift from my brother? Yin Shishir asked. Yu Yu licked her lips and said awkwardly, I don't really like it. I just thought it would be fun. Mommy is a little curious about what he gave you. Yin Shishir deliberately probed him. Why don't we open it and see? No. Yu Yu stared at him warily. The packaging is quite interesting. What a stubborn little fellow. Actually, he just couldn't bear to tear it apart. Yin Shishir pursed her lips and smiled, but she didn't expose him. This child was really a little arrogant. She could tell that he actually liked this gift very much. Nervousness, anticipation, and curiosity were all written on his face. However, he was a little awkward and wasn't good at expressing himself. Yin Shirshir caressed his snowy face and pinched his chubby cheeks. She pursed her lips and said, "Mommy loves Yu. Yu is irreplaceable in Mommy's heart." Yu hugged Yin Shirshir and planted a sweet kiss on her face. "Yu loves Mommy too. Mommy is unique in Yu's heart." "Sleep early." Yin Shirshir stroked his hair and kissed his forehead. "We still have to wake up early tomorrow." When they left the bedroom, the smile on Yin Shirshir's face faded. This child was obviously still a little conflicted. Chapter 692. The filming of the movie progressed step by step. There were a few scenes involving Yin Dongyu and Yin Xiachuan after they had grown up. The production crew specially rushed to Huanyu Tower to film. It was not that Lin Fengtian was trying to save money, but in the original novel, after Yin Dongyu graduated, he joined the media company to work. In all aspects, the setting of Huanyu Tower was very suitable for the plot of the original novel. This plot described how, after graduating from high school, Yin Dongyu's parents realized that the relationship between Dongyu and Xiachuan had gone beyond the scope of a sibling relationship. While feeling uneasy, they also tried to find a way to cut off this unnecessary relationship. Hence, after Yin Xiachuan graduated from high school, she was sent overseas to study. No matter how reluctant Yin Xiachuan was, she could not go against her parents' orders. Furthermore, in order to cut off this unnecessary relationship, Yin Dongyu agreed to the matter and personally sent her on the plane. When he returned to the country, Yin Dongyu joined the media company and became the artistic director of the media company. Yin Xiachuan, on the other hand, returned to the country and successfully joined the company. This scene was arranged to be filmed at Huanyu Tower. Previously, during the filming of the movie, many reporters came to visit the set and interview the crew of the Green Apple. This caused Lin Fengtian to be extremely dissatisfied with him. He did not like reporters coming to visit the set. Before the movie was released, he wanted to create a sense of mystery about the movie. He did not want the filming process to be widely exposed. Hence, he mercilessly dismissed the reporters. The reporters complained a lot about this, but there was nothing they could do about Lin Fengtian. Actually, they had an ulterior motive for coming to visit the set. Instead, they were using the excuse of visiting the set to dig up information about the two main leads, Gu Xingze and Yin Shirshir. When Yin Shirshir walked out of the changing room, she happened to see Gu Xingze passing by the door. However, even though they bumped into each other, Gu Xingze only greeted her briefly before brushing past her. He was cold and distant, deliberately keeping a distance from her. Ever since that day in the music room, even though the production team had been reorganized and the main cast had returned, Gu Xingze was no longer as close to her as before. It could be said that he was extremely indifferent. Sometimes there was no communication at all. She smiled. In her heart she was more or less disappointed, but she could understand Gu Xingze's attitude towards her. This disappointment was not because of anything else, but because she seemed to have lost another friend. She had always regarded Gu Xingze as a friend, but Gu Xingze did not think so. He liked her. It was unknown when Gu Xingze started to have such an awareness. He liked Yin Shirshir and wanted to protect her from any harm. But after that day, he suddenly realized that compared to Muyaja, he didn't seem to have the ability to take her back. If he was the head of the Gu clan, perhaps he would have the right to do so. But now, in terms of power, he couldn't even withstand a single blow from Muyaja. What was there to fight about? There was no way he could win against Muyaja. This made him feel a little embarrassed. What made him even more disappointed was that Yin Shirshir had always only treated him as a friend. It was really a very pure way of thinking. He couldn't see any complicated feelings in her eyes. There was only the kind of feelings she had for friends. Even so, if they weren't close, they wouldn't fall for each other. If they didn't fall for each other, they wouldn't get hurt. Chapter 693. In the dressing room, Yin Shirshir sat in front of the dressing table. Mushi was helping her tidy up her makeup bag as she looked at Yin Shirshir's reflection in the mirror. She smiled and said, "Shirshir, I realize that your facial features are very sculptural. No matter what style of makeup you wear, I can't see any disharmony on your face. Yin Shirshir broke into laughter as she snapped out of her thoughts and glanced at her. Mushi, is your hand better now? She nodded repeatedly. Yes, it's better now. The blisters have subsided. After applying the medicine you gave me for a few days, it's more or less healed now. Don't force yourself. If you still feel pain, you must tell me, she said helplessly. Shirshir, I'm not that pretentious. It's just a small injury. It's all healed now. However, even though she said this, she was still very touched. A few days ago, Yin Shirshir gave her a few days off. She was resting at home these few days, worried that she might be bullied by others in the production team. Worried, she ended her sick leave early and rushed to the production team. After beating around the bush, she found out that Yin Bingqing did not come to the production team these few days. Only then did she feel slightly relieved. The reason why she did not come to the production team was probably because she had to rush to the set. Before the Green Apple, Yin Bingqing had accepted another movie contract. Many big-name actors would choose to accept 2 movies at the same time, and then mediate between them before rushing to the production team. Lin Fengtian hated this method. She did not even have the basic qualities of an actor. He almost fired Yin Bingqing, but the backing behind her was too strong. This role was originally given to the production team out of nowhere, so he had no choice but to swallow his anger. Yin Bingqing was not around a few days ago, so all her scenes were arranged for this day. A few scenes in university were cut by the director in a fit of anger. Logically speaking, Yin Bingqing should return to the production team today. At the thought of having to work with such a person with no character, Mushi felt unwell all over. However, this was how it was in this industry. Even if you don't like it, you still have to endure it. The makeup artist carefully applied makeup for Yin Shirshir, while Yin Shirshir sat quietly with her eyes closed. Her makeup artist was still Ding Ning. At first, when Yin Shirshir joined the cast, the crew members did not think much of her. No matter what happened, they prioritized the big shots first. Gu Xingzi started first, followed by Yin Bingqing, Yang Mi, Li Jiuxian. They were arranged according to the ranking of each celebrity. People were divided into different classes, flattering the strong and stepping on the weak. This was perfectly reflected in this film crew. There were several times when Yin Shirshir had to do it herself because there was not enough manpower, and she had no time to wait for Ding Ning to do the makeup. Fortunately, she had done some makeup homework before she joined the crew. She had also learned a lot of techniques from the training classes, so it was not a problem for her to deal with an emergency. In addition, she had a good foundation, so it was not a big deal. However, as time went by, Yin Shirshir did not say anything, while Mushi had a lot of complaints. She complained more than once. Shirshir, aren't they just bullying you because you have the lowest status? It's fine if it happens once or twice, but it's too much for you to be involved in this time and time again. No matter what, you're the female lead personally chosen by director Lin. I think you'll definitely become a hit. They don't have any foresight at all. Yin Shirshir, however, remained silent. Chapter 694. Yin Shirshir casually replied, "What do you mean by exclusive use? There's no need for that at all. It's too troublesome." "Why not?" Mushi said angrily. "Every time it's your turn to put on makeup, you're clearly the first to appear, yet you have to be the last to put on makeup? Anyway, I'm feeling sorry for you." Yin Shirshir, however, said, "Mumu, if I were to hire an exclusive stylist, what would others think? They'll think that a newbie like me is acting like a big shot, and will have thoughts about me." She did not want to cause unnecessary trouble. Mushi was stunned, but she heard her nonchalant reply. "Although I don't care what others think, I'm afraid of trouble. That's why I don't cause trouble. Besides, it's not a big deal." Yin Shirshir had been in the production team for some time. With the exposure of the behind-the-scenes footage of her filming on the official Weibo of the Green Apple, she had accumulated a lot of fans. Now the number of fans on Weibo had exceeded the 5 million mark. Although these 5 million fans were not worth mentioning to some A-list big shots, it was still not a big deal. However, after so many years in the entertainment industry, it was rare for a newbie to gain such an objective amount of exposure right after their debut. Such results could be said to be surprising. It also confirmed Lin Fengtian's words back then. This Yin Shirshir, as long as she could seize an opportunity, would shoot to fame. Now, however, Yin Shirshir was famous. Her popularity had skyrocketed. In the production team, all the staff's attitude toward her had completely changed. No one dared to slight her anymore. At least, in terms of details, Yin Shirshir felt that she was slowly being respected in the production team. Ding Ning also took notice of her. Shirshir, you're so beautiful and photogenic. Ding Ning finished applying her eyeshadow and looked at Yin Shirshir's mesmerizing eyes in the mirror. She could not help but click her tongue in praise. Yin Shirshir could not help but laugh. That's because you're good at it. You flatter me, you flatter me. Ding Ning smiled and put the eyeshadow brush into the Evolution makeup bag. He took out a box of lip gloss and mixed some colors on the palette. He said apologetically, Shirshir, you have a good temper. Putting on makeup for you is what makes my job so fascinating. From the first time he met Yin Shirshir, Ding Ning had a good impression of her. He felt that she was modest, polite, and very gentle. He had never seen her make things difficult for any of the crew members, and had always been very cooperative. Ding Ning was recognized as the top stylist in the circle. His skills were first class, so most of the people he came into contact with were first-tier big shots. She was used to serving famous celebrities like Yin Bingqing and Han Yuyan. Now that she was in front of Yin Shirshir, it was like a cool breeze blowing on her face. Yin Bingqing was the kind of star who was stubborn. She would order the stylist to give her the style she thought she should use to appear on screen. Take the previous makeup photos for example. Logically speaking, Yin Bingqing's character should be a charming and beautiful rebellious high school student. However, Yin Bingqing insisted that Ding Ning give her a pure look. She also specified that she wanted the same makeup as Yin Shirshir. She wanted nothing more than to compare herself with Yin Shirshir. Ding Ning was a little hesitant. Pure makeup did not suit her character. He kindly reminded her but was humiliated by Yin Bingqing. Helplessly, he gave her a pure look. In the end, Yin Bingqing was scolded badly by Lin Fengtian when she went on screen for a trial photo. Chapter 695. In the end, Lin Fengtian almost kicked her out, and she almost lost her job. She was really wronged. Yin Shirshir was different though. Her facial features were too sculpted. Every makeup that Ding Ning put on her according to her character could bring out her beauty. It was unparalleled. Yin Shirshir would not rush her, make things difficult for her, or humiliate her like Yin Bingqing did. Not only was she good-tempered, but she also knew how to respect others. She was really grateful. Before Yin Shirshir became famous, the production crew did not take her seriously. They did not even put her in their eyes when she played a minor role in a movie. After she became famous, she was neither arrogant nor impatient. She did not throw her weight around. She still arrived at the set on time and obeyed the crew's arrangements. She was still as calm and elegant as before. She did not take to heart the minor roles who had offended her in the past. If it were a celebrity like Yin Bingqing, she would definitely get back at them, but she did not. She was really a special person. Gradually, everyone liked her from the bottom of their hearts. The three of them were chatting. This rare leisure time was suddenly interrupted by footsteps outside the door. The sound of high heels hitting the ground was crisp and powerful. Immediately after, the door was pushed open and Yin Bingqing walked into the dressing room coolly. Mushi turned around. When she saw that it was her, the smile on her face froze. Seeing that Yin Bingqing had returned to the set, the smile on Ding Ning's face gradually turned cold. Yin Shirshir, on the other hand, was the only one who remained unfazed. She did not even spare her a glance as she quietly stared at her reflection in the mirror, as if the actress's arrival had nothing to do with her. Yin Bingqing swept her gaze across everyone. Finally, her gaze landed on Mushi, who was trembling at the side. Ever since that incident, Mushi had some psychological trauma toward Yin Bingqing. She was afraid of this woman from the bottom of her heart. Hence, when she saw her, she could not help but shrink into a corner. Yin Shirshir glanced at Yin Bingqing from the corner of her eye, only to see the latter looking as if she had seen a ghost. She smiled helplessly. Just as he was about to speak, he was interrupted by Yin Bingqing's cold voice. Yo, what a coincidence. You guys are here too? Mushi lowered her head and subconsciously hid behind Yin Shirshir without saying a word. Yin Shirshir reached out and covered Mushi's hand on her shoulder. Yan Bingqing's bright red lips curled into a smile when she saw Mu Xi's cowering look. What a loyal dog. The relationship between master and servant is pretty good. She continued to tremble in silence. Yan Bingqing asked coldly, "Hey, is your hand better?" "Ding Ning, why did you stop?" Yin Shishir acted as if she had not heard Yan Bingqing's words. Seeing that Ding Ning was in a daze at the side, she reminded her. Ding Ning smiled and immediately made small talk. "I was distracted just now. I was thinking of what lip color to match for you. What do you think about peach pink?" "Do as you deem fit. I believe in your taste." Yin Shishir smiled slightly. Her indifference made it seem as if Yan Bingqing did not exist, as if she were air. Yan Bingqing's face instantly turned sullen. This Yin Shishir was really capable. Every word she said was not hurtful, but she had the ability to make her angry out of embarrassment. She said hatefully, "Yin Shishir, get out of here. This dressing room is mine. You have no share." Mu Xi raised her head to look at her. She opened her mouth to defend her, but Yin Shishir suddenly pressed her hand down as if to stop her. Her voice, which had just emerged from her throat, stopped abruptly. Chapter 696. The three of them were eerily quiet and ignored Yan Bingqing. "Get out!" Yan Bingqing's voice was slightly shrill as she gave the order to chase her out again. Yin Shishir still did not move. In a fit of anger, she walked up to Yin Shishir and swept all the makeup products in front of her to the floor. Foundation and eyeshadow were scattered all over the floor in a mess. Ding Ning was taken aback and raised his head in confusion. These were all her makeup products. She could tell that Yan Bingqing hated Yin Shishir, but was there a need to implicate the innocent? Even though she was full of complaints, Ding Ning did not dare to voice them out. That was because she was Yan Bingqing. Her background was O Huang's boss Yang Shouqing. Who would dare to offend her? Only a newbie like Yin Shishir, who was like a newborn calf that was not afraid of a tiger. Yin Shishir raised her eyes slightly and cast a sidelong glance at her, as if questioning her childish behavior. "What's wrong? I'm talking to you, but you're ignoring me. What's the meaning of this? Are you putting on airs with me?" Yan Bingqing questioned her hysterically. Her cold and vicious eyes were as sharp and vicious as a cobra's. "Oh, I didn't hear you." Yin Shishir gave a perfunctory explanation. Yan Bingqing was exceptionally furious. "You clearly heard me, but I didn't hear you speak human language, did I?" Yin Shishir's face was calm and unruffled. Her concise and comprehensive words were full of mockery. Even Ding Ning and Mu Xi, who were behind her, were taken aback. Although Yin Shishir sounded calm when she spoke, her words were filled with inviolable arrogance. How dare she speak to Yan Bingqing like this? Was she not afraid of offending Yan Bingqing? Or was she really a newborn calf who was not afraid of tigers? Did she not know Yan Bingqing's background? Mu Xi's heart pounded wildly. Just as expected, Yan Bingqing's face flushed red with anger at her sarcastic words. Even though her face was covered with thick makeup, it could not hide her redness. She glared fiercely at her and said angrily, "Yin Shishir, what do you mean by that? What do you mean I didn't speak human language? Explain it to me clearly. Is this sentence very difficult to understand? A dog's mouth can't spit ivory, have you heard of that?" Yin Shishir's lips curled into a mocking sneer. "Indeed, you're uncultured. You." Yan Bingqing was exasperated. Suppressing the urge to give her a tight slap, she sneered, revealing her pearly whites. "Yin Shishir, I didn't expect you to be so eloquent. I'm a magnanimous person, so I won't argue with you. Get out. Get out, out, out. Get out." Yin Shishir asked innocently and curiously. "Get out to where?" "This dressing room is mine. Get out and don't come in. You're an eyesore." Yan Bingqing warned her again. On what basis? Yin Shishir was a little amused. Had this Yan Bingqing's manners been eaten by a dog? Yan Bingqing spat out each word viciously. "On the basis that I am Yan Bingqing. I heard that you had a fever these few days. I see that your fever has subsided, but is your brain muddled? Aren't you mistaken?" Yin Shishir smiled. She then turned her eyes and finally looked her in the eye. "This dressing room is shared. Don't tell me you want to monopolize it?" Chapter 697. Yin Shishir pretended to be surprised. "No way. Are you bullying a newbie?" "Yes, I am bullying you. What can you do to me? Yan Bingqing sneered. In her eyes, a newbie like Yin Shirshir could not withstand a single blow other than her sharp tongue. Yin Shirshir was neither shocked nor angry. Instead, she kindly reminded her with a smile. There are many reporters outside today. If news of Yan Bingqing dominating the dressing room and ostracizing newbies gets out, won't tomorrow's headlines be very interesting? Are you threatening me? Yan Bingqing narrowed her eyes dangerously when she heard this. No, it's clearly Senior Yan Bingqing who is making things difficult for me. Yin Shirshir pointed at the surveillance camera high up in the corner. That place has been captured clearly. Yan Bingqing turned to look in the direction she was pointing. Indeed, there was a small surveillance camera there. She gritted her teeth in anger and turned her head to glare fiercely at her. She had no choice but to force herself to calm down. Yin Shirshir, you win. Yin Shirshir's lips curled into a smile, but her eyes were cold as she turned to look at the mirror again. Yan Bingqing felt that she had completely lost face in front of Mu Xi and Ding Ning. She did not forget to say harshly, Yin Shirshir, I'm warning you. Don't be too arrogant. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because Director Lin is supporting you. Who do you think you are? You won't have a good ending for offending me. Yin Shirshir ignored her threat and reminded her coldly, you talk too much. There's not much time left. Can't you just do your makeup? Ding Ning and Mu Xi were already petrified. This Yin Shirshir is really something. Could it be that she has a strong background, too, so she is not afraid of Yan Bingqing's threats? Yan Bingqing was about to lose her temper when she saw her impatient look. Gu Xing's magnetic voice came from the door. Bingqing. Yan Bingqing was stunned. She immediately hid the evil expression on her face and turned around to put on a sweet smile. Seeing Gu Xingze standing at the door and looking at her, she immediately went up to him. Xingze, it's you? Yin Shirshir was stunned and turned to look at him. However, she saw Gu Xingze standing at the door and looking at Yan Bingqing indifferently. He did not even look at her. He looked at Yan Bingqing and asked, You're here. Are you feeling better these days? Yan Bingqing smiled shyly and was touched. Xingze, thank you for your concern. I've been resting for a few days, and my fever has gone down. I'm feeling better now. Mu Xi could not help but click her tongue. This Yan Bingqing was always said to be a vase. She only had good looks and mediocre acting skills. Now her acting skills were on the line. He clearly had a ferocious look on his face just now. She changed her expression the moment she turned around. How disgusting. Gu Xingze chatted for a while and said, Okay, take care of yourself. The next few scenes are very important. Yan Bingqing smiled and nodded. Okay. Xingze, you have to take care of yourself too. Is there still a lot of work recently? Gu Xingze said. I'm going back to prepare my lines. I'll be filming later. Okay. Good luck. Gu Xingze left the dressing room. He passed by earlier and heard a quarrel inside. Then, he heard Yin Shirshir's voice. He was a little worried, so he walked in to take a look. Sure enough, he saw Yan Bingqing making things difficult for her. He said a few words to ease the situation, but naturally, he could not let Yin Shirshir know that he was concerned about her. Yan Bingqing stood at the door and watched Gu Xingze leave. Then she turned around and sat in front of the mirror. Chapter 698. Ding Ning, who was in the middle of drawing Yin Shirshir's lips, paused when she heard her order. Ding Ning, I told you to come over and do my makeup. Did you hear me? Ding Ning. Yan Bingqing turned her head and bellowed. Ding Ning immediately tried to curry favor with her. Sister Bingqing, can you wait for a while? I'll do Shirshir's makeup right away, and then, Shirshir? How affectionate. Yan Bingqing snorted. Could it be that she's more important than me in your heart? Ding Ning was forced to shut her mouth at once, and even her hands were trembling. Mu Xi finally spoke. Shirshir's makeup will be done soon. Sister Bingqing, can't you wait a little longer? You want me to wait for her? What right do you have to talk to me? *tch, Yan Bingqing said angrily. This time, Mu Xi did not dare to talk back to her. Yin Shirshir pursed her lips. She somewhat understood why those staff members were always giving her the cold shoulder. It was not that they were giving her the cold shoulder. Someone was forcing them. Although Ding Ning was a top-notch stylist in the industry, She did not dare to slap Yin Bingqing's face like Yin Shishir did. In this line of work, people did not dare to offend people easily, especially someone as powerful as Yin Bingqing. She knew that if she ran over to do Yin Bingqing's makeup now, Yin Shishir would not mind. She had always been very magnanimous and would not fuss over such things. However, Ding Ning did not want to do this. Yin Shishir treated her well. If she did this, she would inevitably feel guilty. Just as she was hesitating, Yin Shishir took the lipstick from her hand, smiled and said lightly, "Go over, I'll do it myself. You've already done the big project, so the rest won't be a problem." After applying some lip gloss and tracing the contours of her face, the makeup was done. There was no need to make things difficult for her. But, go ahead. It's nothing. Don't mind it. After Yin Shishir finished speaking, she continued to draw her lips in front of the mirror. Feeling grateful and guilty, Ding Ning turned around and walked to Yin Bingqing to put on makeup. "Put on some pretty makeup for me. I don't want it to be like last time. At the very least, I want it to be prettier than Yin Shishir." The pressure in Yin Bingqing's words made Ding Ning break out in cold sweat. She glared at Yin Shishir again and said, "If your drawing isn't as good as Yin Shishir's, then get out of the cast." Ding Ning was angry, but he didn't dare to say anything. He thought, "You are a supporting role, and Yin Shishir is the leading role. How can a supporting role steal the leading role?" However, he only dared to think about this in his heart. Yin Shishir treated Yin Bingqing as heir. After finishing her makeup, she took the script and left the dressing room to consolidate it. While Ding Ning was styling Yin Bingqing's hair, she also took out the script and flipped through it. The next scene was a scene between her and Yin Shishir. She skimmed through the script quickly, and a deep and sinister smile suddenly appeared on her lips. At the Mu residence, Mu Wanru was lying comfortably on the taffy chair. She held her phone in her hand and scrolled through Weibo expressionlessly. The servant waited on her and peeled grapes for her. After peeling one, she brought the pulp to her mouth. Mu Wanru opened her mouth and bit into it. She hadn't been out of the country for the past few days. Grandpa Mu insisted that she take care of the baby in peace, so she didn't know how the task she had asked Alan to do was going. She lowered her head and reached out to touch her flat belly. Chapter 699. She had to think of the next step before her lie was exposed. Otherwise, it would be difficult to smooth things over. The key point was that she had no idea what evidence Muyaja had on her. She guessed that Muyaja had investigated her identity, but she did not know how far he had investigated. This was why she was so anxious. She could not even fathom what Muyaja was thinking or what tricks he was up to. As she scrolled through Weibo, she saw that Yin Shishir's behind-the-scenes photos were almost everywhere. Whether it was the photo of Yin Shishir smiling as she held a lunchbox, or the back view of Yin Shishir standing upright in the waiting area, or the side view of her beautiful face when she occasionally flipped her hair. Even when she occasionally looked back and smiled, that stunning and refined face would attract an indiscriminate bombardment in the comments section. Beautiful. Too beautiful. The behind-the-scenes photos attracted countless fans. The movie had yet to be released, but its popularity was already through the roof. Yin Shishir's popularity, in particular, skyrocketed to the point where it even overshadowed Gu Xing's, and became one of the top trending topics. Mu Wanru was so angry that her face was ashen, and her hand that was holding the phone kept tightening. Suddenly, a notification popped up on the phone. She had received a new email. Out of curiosity, she opened it slightly and browsed through it, but her face turned pale at that moment. Mu Wanru straightened up abruptly and stared straight at the photos in the email. In the photos, there were a few clearly photographed documents. She flipped through them one by one, and the more she looked, the more shocked she was. What was this? Another new email popped up. She was slightly stunned, and her fingertips were trembling as she opened the new email. There was only one short sentence in the email. "Do you want to get the documents back? See you at Jiangnan Commune at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Room 505, I'll wait for you." Jiangnan Commune was a famous private clubhouse in Beijing, and many rich people liked to gather there. There was no information about the sender, and no name, address, or even phone number could be found. However, in the email, there was something that made her tremble in fear. Who could it be? Who could have this information? This was almost the most damning evidence of her. Mu Wanru's face was pale with fright. The servants beside her saw that her face was extremely pale, and asked her worriedly. She threw a tantrum and slapped each of them. Get lost. Go away, don't bother me. The servants retreated one after another, afraid that she would be implicated in her anger. Mu Wanru stood up irritably and paced back and forth. Should he go? Who exactly was this person? Who could it be? How did they get hold of such evidence? Friend or foe? Wouldn't it be too risky if he went there rashly? She still didn't know the identity of this person, so she didn't dare to go. Moreover, Muxing did not allow her to leave the house for the past few days. He said that her condition was still unstable for the past 3 months, so he wanted her to recuperate at home. He even pushed the company's work to someone else. Just when Mu Wanru couldn't make up her mind, she received another email. She opened it and saw a message from that person. If you don't come, don't blame me for being unscrupulous. Mu Wanru gritted her teeth. Who was this person to threaten her? It seemed that she had no choice but to go. Mu Wanru gripped her phone tightly and narrowed her eyes dangerously. She planned to find a chance to meet this mysterious person with ill intentions. Chapter 700. At the same time, everything on the set was proceeding in an orderly manner. Yin Shishir and Yin Bingqing had a scene together in the basement. However, at this moment, there was a depressing silence on the set. Everyone was dumbfounded as they stared at the two people surrounded by the crew. Smack. A loud slap was heard. Yin Bingqing's slap landed heavily on Yin Shishir's cheek. It was as if he had poured all of his strength into it, and it was mixed with a thunderous momentum. The crisp sound of the palm colliding with the cheek almost resounded throughout the set. Everyone was so shocked that their eyes widened, and they looked at all this in disbelief. Yin Shishir was caught off guard by this merciless slap. She widened her eyes in shock, unable to regain her senses. The air was so quiet that it was suffocating. This was especially so for Mu Xi, who was waiting by the side. She was so shocked that she could not close her mouth. Yin Bingqing retracted her hand and glared at her viciously. She shouted hysterically, "Yin Xiachuan, why did you come back at this time? Aren't you going to let me off? Or are you not going to let your brother off?" Her mournful and desperate voice echoed in the silent basement. It was shocking and powerful. At this moment, Yin Bingqing was unquestionably immersed in her role. Yin Shishir turned to look at her in shock, but she did not regain her senses for a long time. She narrowed her eyes at Yin Bingqing. She seemed to have underestimated this woman's means. Ruthless. She was extraordinarily ruthless. Yin Shishir was silent for a long time. It was so long that even after a minute, she did not recite her lines. Lin Fengtian's gaze left the monitor and fixed on Yin Bingqing, cold and suspicious. Cut. He stood up and asked Yin Shishir. Yin Shishir, are you in a bad state? Or did you forget your lines? Why didn't you recite them? Yin Shishir pursed her lips and smiled stiffly. Sorry, Director Lin, I was distracted. Lin Fengtian was both angry and annoyed. He had expected better from her. Distracted? Why did you get distracted while filming a movie? Yin Shishir, show me some professionalism. This is work, do you understand? Don't be distracted anymore. Yes. I understand now. Mu Xi widened her eyes in disbelief at this scene. What was going on with Lin Fengtian? He's a famous director. Can't he tell? Yin Bingqing was deliberately humiliating her. In this scene, Yin Xiachuan returned to the country and entered the same company as Yin Dongyu. In the basement, she coincidentally bumped into Yin Dongyu's fiancée, Lin Hina, played by Yin Bingqing. Lin Hina, Yin Dongyu, and Yin Xiachuan were childhood friends who grew up together. They could be considered childhood sweethearts. Her family was wealthy and she liked Yin Dongyu. Later on, as the Yin and Lin families had been on good terms for generations, she naturally became Yin Dongyu's fiancée. Whether it was during the rebellious period or after they grew up, Lin Hina had always been deeply in love with Yin Dongyu. However, in Yin Dongyu's heart, he had always loved Yin Xiachuan deeply. Even when she went abroad, he still could not let go of his feelings for her. Lin Hina knew very well that she had never been in Yin Dongyu's heart. However, just as the two were about to get engaged, Yin Xiachuan returned to the country at this time. When the two bumped into each other, Lin Hina lost control and questioned her ultimate purpose for returning. Usually, when there was a slap scene in a movie, it would rely on a special angle and position. Using a montage technique, one party would raise their hand and pretend to slap the other party, while the other party would exaggeratedly cover their face. Chapter 701. After that, they would change the camera angle, put on makeup, and reshoot the blood-red palm print on the victim's face. Then it would be considered a success. It was just that it was extremely difficult to control. Initially, Yin Bingqing had faked the slap, but whether it was intentional or not, Yin Shishir was very cooperative, but the scene of the slap was very abrupt. It was either that Yin Bingqing's hand was slow by a beat, or that Yin Shishir's hand was faster by a beat. There was no way to connect the slap. Lin Fengtian was so angry that he stomped his feet and gave Yin Bingqing a torrent of abuse. Yin Bingqing said innocently, "You can't blame me. My lines are so long, and I have to control my emotions and pay attention to my positioning. The most important thing is that I have to be careful not to hit her. It's too difficult. How do you want me to act?" Lin Fengtian was so angry that he frowned and gritted his teeth. "Why don't you let me try hitting her? Perhaps this would make the acting even more realistic." "Director Lin, you are so professional. You must understand my difficulties. I also want to film this movie well to prove my acting skills. Moreover, I have filmed such scenes before. It's no big deal to be slapped once or twice. Yin Shishir is a serious newcomer. She will definitely agree to it." Yin Bingqing suggested seriously. After she finished speaking, she looked at Yin Shishir, who was standing at the side. "Do you agree?" Yin Shishir pursed her lips and looked at Lin Fengtian, but she did not speak for a long time. If other actors had said this, she would have agreed immediately. But how could Yin Shishir not know what Yin Bingqing was thinking when she suggested it? She just wanted to use this scene to viciously beat her up to vent her anger. Lin Fengtian frowned deeply. In fact, many actors would be more anxious than the director if they did not pass after a few lines. In a moment of desperation, they would take the initiative to suggest that it would be better to do it for real. Even the veteran actors would do it for real. For the sake of art, although they would suffer some physical pain, the effect would be very good. But would Yin Shishir agree? Lin Fengtian did not know what grudges there were between Yin Bingqing and Yin Shishir. He only knew that Yin Bingqing's performance in this movie was remarkable. She had indeed improved a lot. If he could get good results, of course he would agree. It all depended on Yin Shishir. When Yin Shishir heard Lin Fengtian's question, she couldn't reject him. She could only nod her head. Thus the scene earlier occurred. Yin Bingqing's slap was indeed too heavy. Yin Shishir's body was soon dyed red, and a red handprint appeared on her face. Her cheeks were burning with pain. Mushi ran over with heartache. Her fingertips touched her cheek, which was hot and swollen. She hated Yin Bingqing so much in her heart. "Shishir, does it hurt?" Mushi cautiously asked, feeling a lump in her throat. Yin Shishir hissed and coldly said, "It doesn't hurt." How could it not hurt? Yin Bingqing had used all her strength in that slap. She wanted nothing more than to slap her, until she was covered in blood. However, compared to the pain, what she felt more was the bone-deep humiliation and embarrassment. Yin Bingqing did it on purpose. There was no doubt about it. She did not expect her to be so despicable as to use such means to take revenge. This is too much. How could she do this? Mushi's heart ached so much that she was about to cry. Go and tell Director Lin that this scene should be shot from a different angle. If this goes on, who knows how many more times she will do it. Chapter 702. Even if she gave feedback to Lin Fengtian, could this scene be cut out? How could it be? In the usual plot, a slap scene would attract a lot of attention. How could it be cut out? She had experienced Yin Bingqing's unscrupulous methods. Mushi's heart ached so much that she could only cry. She felt a little guilty, thinking that it was all her fault. If it were not for her, she would not have a grudge with Yin Bingqing. She hurriedly went up and used concealer to cover up the red and swollen handprint that Yin Bingqing had just slapped her. She could feel the pain just by looking at it. Gu Xingzi stood at the side and watched, his face as cold as stagnant water. He wanted to take a step forward, but his eyes darkened. He returned to his original spot and clenched his fists tightly. Lin Fengtian stomped his feet and reminded Yin Shishir again. You must not be distracted this time. Try to pass it in one take, okay? Yin Shishir nodded. She knew that Lin Fengtian was worried about her. He was afraid that she would not pass the first take and would have to suffer another slap. The actors got into their positions. Hina, long time no see. Yin Shishir stood at the same spot with her hands behind her back. Her eyes were smiling, and her pure face seemed to have aged well. In Xiachuan, why are you back? Yan Bingqing was brought into the role and looked at her in disbelief. She pressed on and asked almost mournfully, why are you back? Can't I come back? Yin Shishir widened her eyes in shock. She was puzzled by the hostility of Lin Hina, played by Yan Bingqing. This is my home. If I don't come back, where else can I go? Smack. Yan Bingqing gave her another heavy slap on the face, and it was the same spot. The force this time was even stronger than the previous slap. It was as if she had poured all her anger into it. She hated it. She hated Yin Shishir's arrogance to the core. Thinking of how she had been humiliated by her earlier, Yan Bingqing couldn't wait to tear her apart when she saw her calm face. Therefore, there was no need for him to brew his emotions. His anger was fully displayed. The strength of this slap almost made Yin Shishir lose her balance. Her body swayed, and the slap made one side of her ear ring. She felt a tinnitus. She finally steadied herself and raised her head while covering her face, only to see Yan Bingqing staring straight at her. She didn't say her lines for a long time. After a long pause, she suddenly stomped her feet and turned around in embarrassment. She made a face at Lin Fengtian and said, Director, I forgot my lines. The entire place was dead silent. Gu Xingze, in particular, had almost reached the limit of his tolerance. His handsome face was filled with anger, and a cold aura was constantly emanating from his body. This time, everyone's eyes could see it clearly. Yan Bingqing was obviously doing it on purpose. She was using this scene to suppress Yin Shishir. She was obviously trying to teach this newcomer some rules. Youngmi sat at the side. It was her turn to act in the next scene, but because of the continuous NGs in this scene, it wasn't her turn yet. She had to touch up her makeup again and again. She could also tell that this Yan Bingqing had ulterior motives. This was her usual way of teaching newcomers a lesson. It wasn't as if she had never experienced it before. Lin Fengtian sat in front of the monitor. Through the camera, he looked at Yin Shishir, who was standing still in the middle of the set. She stood there expressionlessly. Her eyes were very, very calm. Her face was pale and colorless. The other side of her face was so red that it looked as if it was dripping blood. The handprint was prominent again. Chapter 703. At the side, many of Yan Bingqing's fans were mocking and sneering at her. Countless vicious criticisms were like poisonous swords stabbing into her body. However, she acted as if she did not hear them. Her face was calm, arrogant, and elegant, as if she was an otherworldly fairy who was untainted by the dust of the mortal world. Yan Bingqing gritted her teeth as she watched. She secretly glared at her angrily. She stood there quietly. Even such humiliation couldn't make her frown in the slightest. Yan Bingqing originally thought that after 2 slaps, Yin Shishir would definitely beg her for mercy shamelessly. If it were someone else, even if they did not beg her for mercy, they would cry and beg her not to hit them so hard. However, she did not. She only stood there silently, her body as light as a butterfly's wings. Yan Bingqing snorted. Anyway, she still had a lot of time. She wanted to see how long Yin Shishir could last. Slap. Yin Shishir's face was slapped to one side. There was another buzzing sound. She even suspected that her eardrums were going to be pierced by her. Yan Bingqing's conciliatory laughter faintly sounded in her ears. Director Lin, I did not adjust my state just now. I can't connect. Lin Fengtian said impatiently, Yan Bingqing, this is the film set. It's not a place for you to mess around. Although he did not know what happened between Yan Bingqing and Yin Shishir, after watching a few NGs, even if he was blind, it was clear that Yan Bingqing was doing it on purpose. Therefore, there was a hint of displeasure in his words. Yan Bingqing did not care about it. So what if Yin Shishir had Lin Fengtian's protection? Did she have the ability to make her fly away? She was not afraid. Gu Xingze walked to her side and suppressed his anger. Yan Bingqing, that's enough. Xingze, I don't understand what you're talking about. What do you mean? Yan Bingqing was a little displeased. You did it on purpose. Gu Xingze's voice was cold and his eyes were sharp. If you continue to be like this, do you believe that I will ban me? Yan Bingqing continued his words and rolled her eyes. You're actually treating me like this for a newbie. Xingze, to think that we've been partners for so many years. For my sake, don't make things difficult for her. Okay, I really didn't do it on purpose. It was really an accident. Yan Bingqing explained again. Even if Gu Xingze did not believe it, there was nothing he could do. He knew that if Yin Shishir gave in to Yan Bingqing, she might suffer less physical pain. However, he believed that with Yin Shishir's stubborn character, she would not bow down to him. Slap. Yin Shishir turned her face to the side. Her body was as stiff as a rock and her face was as white as paper. Cut. Yan Bingqing glanced at her from the corner of her eyes. Aya, what's wrong? Why did I lose my composure when I saw your face? Yin Shishir, you're so annoying. Yin Shishir smiled calmly like an emotionless doll. She turned her face and looked at her with a glassy gaze. Sister Bingqing, your script skills are extraordinarily bad. You Yin Shishir, you're so stubborn. Yan Bingqing threatened fiercely. Slap. Yin Shishir, your expression just now was not right. But it's okay, it's okay. You're a newbie. It's okay to make mistakes occasionally. Just be careful next time. Yin Shishir closed her eyes and seemed to be adjusting her emotions. Chapter 704. I'm also troubled that you can't remember the same line after repeating it so many times. Yin Shishir. Yan Bingqing shot her a venomous look. Immediately after, she laughed sinisterly. All right, cheap wretch. Let's wait and see. Smack. Director Lin. Yin Shishir gave me a fright when she glared at me on purpose. Will she bear a grudge against me? Cut. Yin Shishir did not know how many NG she had taken, or how many slaps she had received. Her body swayed slightly. Her blood seemed to have frozen, and her hands and feet were extremely cold. Even raising her head was difficult, humiliated, unbearable, and the onlookers who were either indifferent or pointing fingers at her were so oppressive that she could hardly breathe. This feeling was as if someone was strangling her throat. She had never been so embarrassed before. Her self-esteem was like her face that was about to be smashed and trampled under someone's feet. She was in an extremely sorry state. Her eyes could not help but sting, but she held it in and forced her tears back. Let's take a break. Everyone, adjust your state of mind. Mushi immediately helped Yin Shishir back to the lounge. Looking at her swollen cheeks, tears gushed out. This is too much, too much. Dingyu stood at the side, angry and annoyed. She kept picking up powder to cover up the wound on her face. She applied layer after layer, but it could not cover it up at all. Yin Shishir pursed her lips. This was probably her most embarrassing moment. A black Bentley was parked in the parking lot of Huanyu Tower. Minyu walked to the car and opened the door. Muyaja slowly got out of the car. There was an important board meeting at Huanyu Tower in the afternoon that required his attendance. In the past, there was no one in the basement parking lot. However, Muyaja saw people walking back and forth in a hurry. Judging from their attire, they seemed to be some staff. He immediately ordered Minyu to find out. Minyu ran over. After a while, he came back and reported, "Boss, a production crew is filming here." Filming? Muyaja frowned. What crew? Yeah, it's a movie that Huanyu invested in previously, The Green Apple, directed by Lin Fengtian. Lin Fengtian? Was it the movie that Yin Shishir starred in? Muyaja pursed his lips. He rarely paid attention to news about the entertainment industry, but he knew that Yin Shishir's first film was Lin Fengtian's The Green Apple. So she's here too? Let's go and take a look. Minyu said hesitantly. But, boss, the board meeting is about to start. It won't take long. We'll leave after we take a look. Okay, said Minyu as he nodded his head and followed her in silence. Muyaja walked to the filming location. The crew was already in position. He looked towards the center of the set, and saw Yin Shishir and Yan Bingqing standing face to face. From his angle, he could only see half of Yin Shishir's face. Her expression was as cold as snow. Her eyes were empty and lifeless. She was barely breathing. She was really barely breathing. It was as if all the energy in her body had been sucked out of her like silk being peeled out of a cocoon. All that was left was an empty shell. It made one's heart ache just by looking at her. Yan Bingqing stared at her face. Her mouth opened and closed as if she was questioning her sternly. However, she was too far away to hear clearly. Minyu said, "What's going on? Miss Yan's acting is amazing." Chapter 705. Muyaja pursed his thin lips. Even though he knew that it was all an act, his heart still ached for her. "Let's go." Just as he turned around, he heard the crisp sound of a slap coming from behind him. Slap. His powerful and resonant voice echoed in the empty basement. Muyaja paused in his steps, and the lines on his shoulders immediately stiffened. He turned around abruptly and happened to catch sight of Yin Shishir being slapped harshly by Yan Bingqing. That slap almost caused her body to sway. Her silky hair scattered on the side of her face, making her look very pathetic. Muyaja pursed his thin lips tightly. In an instant, his whole body emitted a heart-palpitating cold aura. When Minyu saw this, he held his breath for a moment. Yin Shishir felt as if thunder had exploded in her ears when this slap came. Accompanied by a sharp pain from the corners of her eyes and eardrums, the world seemed to have lost all sound in an instant. She seemed to be unable to hear anything. Yan Bingqing did not seem to notice her unusually pale complexion. She only stomped her feet and turned around to shout, "Director Lin, what should we do?" Lin Fengtian's temper was at its peak. He almost shouted impatiently, "D***, what's wrong with you again? If you can't act well, you can get lost and don't have to film anymore." Yan Bingqing said innocently and aggrievedly, "Look at Yin Shishir. She's in such a dissociated state. How can I go through my lines? She's obviously not cooperating with me." Mushi watched from the side with trepidation, afraid that Yin Shishir would collapse in the next second. She was conflicted, though, and hoped that Yin Shishir would just collapse like this and stop forcing herself to suffer. This Yan Bingqing was still questioning Yin Shishir's unwillingness to cooperate. Did she not see how much effort she had put into it? Who could withstand it? Lin Fengtian suppressed his anger and looked at Yin Shishir. The next moment he was stunned. Yin Shishir tried her best to support her body that was on the verge of collapse. She slowly raised her head and opened her eyes. Everyone looked at her. The corner of her left eye was filled with blood, which was extremely shocking. Cold sweat trickled down his cheeks and into his lips. It was astringent and salty. In a daze, the heels of his body suddenly trembled, and he was unable to stand still. There was a moment of darkness in front of his eyes, followed by a dizzying dizziness. Yin Shishir's body swayed. It was obvious that she was about to fall over. Her condition was obviously not right. Lin Fengtian suddenly stood up from behind the monitor. Yan Bingqing also saw that the corners of Yin Shishir's eyes were bloodshot. She smiled shyly and said, "I assure sure I'm sorry. Did I hit him a little too hard just now? But you can't blame me." Suddenly, she lowered her voice and said viciously, "It's your fault for having such an annoying face." Yin Shishir was in a daze. It was as if she could not hear Yan Bingqing's vicious and mocking laughter. The blood in her body seemed to be frozen, and could no longer flow. In her chaotic consciousness, all her willpower was on the verge of dissipating. Her body trembled for a moment. Her heels could no longer support her heavy and collapsing body. Every strand of nerves in her brain snapped as a wave of darkness fiercely assaulted her. Yin Shishir's body went limp and she fell backward. Shishir, Shishir. It was as if countless people were rushing to her and calling her name. Gu Xingze could no longer sit back and watch. Seeing her fall to the ground, he got up and hurried to her. Chapter 706. Before Gu Xingze could react, he staggered a few steps. When he looked up, he saw a tall and ruthless figure walking quickly to Yin Shishir's side. Muyaja? Why is he here? At this moment, everyone on set was stunned. Even Yan Bingqing stood rooted to the ground with a pale face. She did not expect Yin Shishir to be so weak that she fainted with just a few slaps. However, she did not think about how much strength she had put into each of her slaps. Could an ordinary person take it? The set keeper and assistant surrounded Yin Shishir. Mushi was at a loss as she squatted at the side. She looked at Yin Shishir's red and swollen face and cried sadly. She took out her phone with trembling hands and dialed the ambulance. Mu Yaja was filled with anger. He pushed the crowd aside and bent down slightly to hug Yin Shirshir. His slender fingers caressed her red and swollen face. From his angle earlier, he could not see her entire face. He only thought that she was acting when she looked terrible. However, when he heard the slap and saw her unconscious on the ground, he felt suffocated and found it difficult to breathe. Immediately after, an uncontrollable anger rose in his heart. It was a kind of anger that wanted to destroy the world. Mu Yaja caressed her cheek gently. The side of her face that was slapped was boiling hot, as if it was going to burn his fingertips. It was so red that it looked like blood was dripping from it. This was definitely not something that could be caused by a slap. Mu Yaja's heart ached as he hugged her shoulders tightly. Heartache, anger, and vexation surged through his limbs and bones. He took a deep breath to suppress the urge to smash the set. He slowly raised his head and looked at Yan Bingqing, the instigator. Just now he had seen with his own eyes that she had slapped his woman. She actually dared to slap her. And she was so ruthless. Was she courting death? Yan Bingqing received his incomparably sinister gaze, which was like an eagle's drill. Mu Yaja's eyes were abnormally cold. He was as fierce as a jaguar eyeing its prey, as if he would pounce on her in the next second with a roar and swallow her whole, not even leaving her bones behind. Yan Bingqing couldn't help but take a few steps back as if she had seen a terrifying scourge. Her whole body was drenched in cold sweat. Initially, when Mu Yaja rushed onto the set, no one present recognized this godlike, aristocratic man who had descended from the heavens. After all, these people had never seen the real face of the CEO of Dishing Financial Group. Yan Bingqing did not recognize him at first, but after taking a closer look, she realized that this man was the crown prince of the Mu Group, Mu Yaja. What was his relationship with Yin Shirshir? Seeing him hugging Yin Shirshir and looking so nervous that he lost control, Yan Bingqing was confused for a moment. She suddenly heard someone's reminder that day. Yin Shirshir is a newbie with an impressive background. Sister Bingqing, it's better if you don't offend her. Impressive background. Could it be that the impressive background that person had mentioned was referring to? Yan Bingqing thought about it carefully and couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. The hand that slapped Yin Shirshir just now was still numb. However, at this moment, at the thought that Yin Shirshir might be Mu Yaja's woman, Yan Bingqing couldn't help but feel a chill all over her body. Even her toes couldn't help but feel cold. She had only wanted to teach this newbie a lesson. Chapter 707. But who was she? She did not take her seriously, spouting nonsense time and time again, and repeatedly offended her superiors. She was determined to teach this newbie a lesson and teach her the rules. Unexpectedly, she seemed to be Mu Yaja's woman. Yan Bingqing's face was blank. She was stunned. Mu Yaja looked up and hugged Yin Shirshir in his arms. Her body was so thin and petite, and she was so light, like a feather, that he could hug her completely in his arms with one hand effortlessly. He walked in front of Yan Bingqing, and his gaze was like a cold sword piercing her body. In an instant, Yan Bingqing felt as if her body was riddled with holes by his gaze. Did you hit her? Mu Yaja's thin lips parted slightly, and a few cold words escaped from his cold and arrogant lips. The hidden murderous intent in his handsome eyes could not be concealed, and was about to burst out. Yan Bingqing shuddered and lowered her head, not daring to look into his eyes. Her heart was shivering. However, she did not dare to admit it, let alone deny it. There were so many pairs of eyes present, and many of them were Yin Shirshir's men. If she denied it, someone would step forward to accuse her in the next second. However, even if she had the courage of a bear and the courage of a leopard, she did not dare to admit it directly. She was afraid that the man would crush her in the next second. This was not an exaggeration. This man definitely had the ability to do so. Mu Yaja. This name was feared by many. He had ascended to the throne at the age of 18, and had played with many bloody battles. A single finger was enough to crush her into smithereens. If only she had known that the person behind Yin Shirshir was him, she would not be willing to go against Yin Shirshir no matter what. Mu Shi, who was standing at the side, was trembling with anger. Although she did not know who the man hugging Yin Shirshir was, she could tell that Yan Bingqing was in awe of him. It could even be said that she was afraid and terrified of him. He must be a man with a high status. With this thought in mind, Mushi was no longer afraid of Yan Bingqing's terrifying background. She pointed at Yan Bingqing and complained with tears in her eyes. It's her. She's the one who hit her. She's deliberately making things difficult for Shirshir. Shirshir's acting clearly had no problems, but she deliberately found fault with Shirshir and even asked for real. Using acting as an excuse, she slapped Shirshir a few times. Wu's Mushi's wrong. Shirshir's so pitiful, Shirshir of course. Mushi's tearful complaint was echoed by the others on the set. We all saw it. Yan Bingqing did it on purpose. Although it's an act, she clearly could have faked it, but she wanted to hit her for real. Yes. One slap wasn't enough. She even pretended to forget her lines and slapped Shirshir a few times. I can't even count how many times she slapped her. That's right. She's usually targeting Yin Shirshir. We've all seen it, but Yin Shirshir is modest and docile to everyone. Everyone likes her very much. Yan Bingqing is too much. She deliberately made NGs and hit her harder each time. Let's send her to the hospital. I'm really worried that something might happen. That's right. Let's send her to the hospital. Yan Bingqing is very heavy-handed. I hope nothing happens to Shirshir. Otherwise, we won't be able to forgive her. Angry accusations were incessant. Accusations kept popping up around him, one after another. Chapter 708. Yin Shirshir had a good reputation on the set. Whether it was the crew or the assistants of other artists, they were all polite and gentle. Therefore, at the critical moment, many people did not hesitate to offend Yan Bingqing and stood out bravely to point out the culprit. Yan Bingqing's heart was filled with anger. She raised her head fiercely and looked around. Her sinister gaze constantly swept through the crowd. Under her venomous gaze, everyone was intimidated by her gaze, and the voices of those who were complaining about the injustice gradually quieted down. Even though they felt that it was unfair to Yin Shirshir, no one dared to stand up against her in all seriousness. Yan Bingqing defended herself loudly. I didn't do it on purpose. I'm just not in the best condition today and made a few NGs, but I definitely didn't do it on purpose. She turned her head and looked at Mu Yaja with pleading eyes. Chairman Mu, please believe me. You did it on purpose. A clear female voice was heard from behind. Yan Bingqing's body stiffened. Her reddened eyes swept over, and saw that it was Yang Jian's voice. She stood out from the crowd expressionlessly, and looked at her coldly. She was not afraid of the threat in her eyes and said calmly, I saw it. She did it on purpose. What did you say? Sister Bingqing, we are all actors. This kind of mistake can be avoided. Even if you really want to hit her, don't you think that you use too much strength? You don't have to deliberately explain anything. There is a recording of the NGs just now. Take it out and see. Won't it be clear at a glance? Yang Mi's words were neither servile nor overbearing, making Yan Bingqing's face fall. I saw it too. I saw it too. I saw it too. Seeing that Yang Mi had stood out, the other small-time actors also gathered their courage and stood out recklessly to accuse her righteously. Yan Bingqing was frightened. She trembled and stepped back. She shook her head frantically. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I really didn't do it on purpose. You guys are clearly working together to harm me. Just as she finished speaking, Mu Yaja suddenly walked forward, stretched out his hand and strangled her neck. A cough. Yan Bingqing was caught off guard. Her throat was choked, and she couldn't breathe. Her face and ears turned red. Mu Yaja looked straight at her face. His eyes were cold and his face was cold and livid. Who gave you the guts? Cough. Yan Bingqing's hand struggled wildly, tightly holding onto his wrist, trying to break free. But she didn't know where he got his strength from. But no matter how hard she tried, his hand didn't move at all. He continued to pinch her so hard that it felt like he was going to break her throat. There were so many people at the scene, but no one dared to step forward to stop him. Mu Yaja's aura was too terrifying. It was as if there were countless sharp blades shooting out from his body, making it difficult for people to approach him. She was really pinching him. She was pinching with all her might. His entire body was filled with anger and indignation. It was as if his rationality was about to be burned to ashes. Yan Bingqing's face was ferocious. The veins on her forehead were bulging. Her eyes were wide open, and her red face was full of suffocating pain. Cough, cough. The muscles on her face were almost distorted, and her eyeballs couldn't move. It was as if she would stop breathing in the next second. Pain, so painful. Yan Bingqing's consciousness was on the verge of blurring. She struggled to turn her eyes and cast a pleading look at Gu Xingzi. Chapter 709. Pitiful and pathetic. Even if Mu Yaja did not do it, he would still do it. Yan Bingqing looked at Gu Xingzi's cold expression, and the despair in her heart grew. Her vision turned black and white. Am I going to die? Is this man really going to strangle me to death? Just as Yan Bingqing thought that she was going to be strangled to death. The ambulance is here. Someone screamed, and the ambulance's signature siren was heard outside the door. After a while, paramedics rushed in with a stretcher. Huanyu Tower was located in the downtown area, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. A medical center was just a street away, and since it was not rush hour, the ambulance came quickly. Where is the victim? The paramedics shouted hurriedly. Mu Yaja threw her to the ground mercilessly and said coldly, Yan Bingqing, you deserve to die. With that, he hugged Yan Shirshir and carried her onto the stretcher. The paramedics asked about the cause of the accident and did a simple check. They then opened Yan Shirshir's eyelids to take a look. Lin Fengtian immediately went forward and asked, How is it? We suspect that it's subconjunctival hemorrhage. We'll have to check again at the hospital. The paramedics concisely reported the results of the check. Lin Fengtian also wanted to follow the ambulance to the hospital to see what was going on. Mu Yaja glanced coldly at Lin Fengtian from the corner of his eyes. The latter pursed his lips and tactfully took a step back. Mu Shi also wanted to follow the ambulance to the hospital to see Yan Shirshir's condition. But when she saw Mu Yaja's terrifying aura, she did not dare to go forward. Lin Fengtian, arrange today's videotapes. Mu Yaja then coldly said to Minyu, Tell the board of directors to postpone the meeting. Yes, boss. Also keep an eye on her. Wait for me to deal with her. Yes. Mu Yaja got into the car and left with the ambulance. Minyu immediately made a call. After a while, a few men in black suits rushed over and took the semi-conscious Yan Bingqing away. Youngmi stood on the spot. She looked calm on the surface, but her heart was in turmoil. There was no doubt that she had never resisted Yan Bingqing's power. In the production team, Yan Bingqing's privileges were very important. This was not the first time she had worked with Yan Bingqing. They had worked together on several projects before, and she had always been forced to submit to Yan Bingqing's power. Someone whispered to her, Youngmi, don't you dislike Yan Shirshir? Why are you helping her today? I'm not helping her, Yang Chong said calmly. I'm just helping myself. That person seemed to be puzzled, but he did not ask. Yang Chong smiled and said, Besides, even though I don't like her, I didn't say I hated her, right? You've all seen how overboard Yan Bingqing is today. Are we still going to remain silent at this time? She indeed did not like Yan Shirshir. When they first met at Huanyu's cocktail party, her limelight was stolen by this newcomer. She was sharp and had already vaguely guessed that Yan Shirshir had a powerful background. She was different from Yan Bingqing. Yan Bingqing could get to where she was today because she had a strong background. Although Youngmi also had a financial backer, she relied on her own diligence and hard work most of the time. The entertainment industry was like a huge vat of dye. It was not wrong at all. Before she entered the entertainment industry, she was a forthright and straightforward girl. It was because of this personality that she offended many people after she entered the entertainment industry. She was also forced to learn how to scheme and fight openly and secretly. Gradually, her personality was polished into a sophisticated person. Chapter 710. Although she didn't like her, she didn't hate her. After getting along with her for so many days, Yan Shirshir was humble and didn't have a sharp edge. Once, Youngmi almost fainted from heatstroke. Yan Shirshir noticed her strange condition in time and sent her to the infirmary. On the way, she vomited because of heatstroke and dirtied Yan Shirshir's clothes, but she didn't show a trace of disgust on her face. Perhaps it was from that day onwards that Youngmi's impression of her completely changed. However, because of Yan Bingqing, Youngmi couldn't show how close she was to her. Compared to Yin Shishir, Youngmi hated Yin Bingqing more. She hated how she used her strong backing to bully the other actors in the crew, flattering the strong and stepping on the weak, using unscrupulous means to create hype. It was disgusting. However, Youngmi didn't dare to go against Yin Bingqing. She was no match for Yin Bingqing. However, just now, Youngmi saw the murderous look in Muyaja's eyes when he looked at Yin Bingqing. Youngmi immediately understood how important Yin Shishir was in this powerful man's heart. Yin Shishir was Muyaja's woman? After being in the industry for so many years, she hadn't seen Muyaja many times. However, it was the first time in her life that she saw an expression other than indifference and coldness on this man's face. Before this, she even thought that nothing could change this man's expression. Yin Shishir was one. Youngmi took the opportunity to use Yin Shishir's position in Muyaja's heart to get rid of Yin Bingqing, who was a thorn in her side. She was certain that Muyaja wouldn't let Yin Bingqing off after hurting Yin Shishir so much. In Mu Group's private hospital, in the doctor's office, there was a dead atmosphere. The tense atmosphere was like a taut bowstring, ready to explode at any moment. Yin Shishir was lying on the treatment bed with her eyes closed. She was still unconscious. She was so quiet that there was almost no sound. At the side, the nurse stood trembling as she looked at the man sitting on the chair with a cold expression. The doctor took the report and flipped it back and forth. Even though he pretended to be calm, his hand holding the report was still trembling slightly. Muyaja stared at him expressionlessly, his thin lips pursed into a cold and arrogant arc. Just by sitting there without saying a word, his aura was enough to intimidate people. A nurse came in with medicine. As soon as she made a little noise, his sharp eyes pierced over and he coldly ordered, "Quiet." That gaze was like a sharp sword that was piercingly cold. And it hadn't been unsheathed, yet it was sufficient to arouse fear in others. I'm sorry, young master, I didn't mean it." The nurse apologized nervously. Muyaja's eyes turned cold. "Didn't I tell you to be quiet? Shut up." "Yes." The nurse immediately bit her lip and didn't dare to make a sound. He turned his eyes and looked at the doctor. The latter was creeped out by his cold gaze. The man's aura was so terrifying that he couldn't stay calm while sitting in front of him. "How is it? Is it serious?" Muyaja asked, his voice sounding nervous. The doctor raised his head and cleared his throat. "It can be said that it's serious, but it's not that serious." "I don't want an ambiguous answer." Muyaja's eyes showed a trace of displeasure. Chapter 7:11. After a pause he continued. "The only thing that is more serious is that her eardrum is perforated. This is more serious." "Serious? How serious?" Muyaja suddenly opened his eyes. "What do you mean by perforated eardrum?" The doctor immediately explained it to him. Miss Yun's eardrum is perforated due to external damage. The eardrum is perforated like a crack, and there is a small amount of blood clot. However, the human eardrum has a strong self-healing ability. It should heal in half a month. Half a month? Muyaja frowned. The doctor was frightened by his angry tone, and was drenched in cold sweat. He carefully looked at his scary face. Muyaja clenched his fists. Was the injury that serious? This Yin Bingqing was so ruthless that she actually perforated her eardrum. Damn it. Muyaja looked up and said in a cold voice, "Will it affect my hearing in the future?" The doctor said, "If you take good care of it, it probably won't." "I don't want such a vague answer." Muyaja frowned and knocked on the table with his fingertips. He said coldly, "Listen, no matter what conjunctival hemorrhage or perforated eardrum, I want her to be in good condition. If she leaves any sequelae..." His voice deepened, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The meaning behind his words was self-evident. The doctor's shoulders trembled. He was frightened by his cold face and immediately smiled apologetically, indicating that he would do his best. He was afraid that if something happened to Miss Yun, he would not be able to keep his job. Muyaja walked to the bedside and reached out to touch Yin Shishir's calm face. Looking at her swollen cheeks, he could not control the anger in his heart. His heart ached. His heart ached. But at the same time, he was secretly annoyed. How could this woman be so stupid? Did she just let herself be humiliated like this? Slap after slap. Did she not feel pain? When people hit her, did she not know how to retaliate? In front of him, she was sharp-tongued like a cat. When angered, she would bare her fangs and claws and scratch him. Why did she only feel wronged when it came to others? He did not believe that if she retaliated, who would dare to do anything to her? If she was not injured at this moment, Muyaja was afraid that he would not be able to control himself and bite her lips hard. Bite her and wake her up. But at this moment, looking at her bloodless snow-white face, there was only a faint pain in his heart. The nurse pushed the hospital bed over, intending to move Yin Shirshir to another bed. However, a few of the nurses were careless and used too much strength in their hands, causing her to feel pain. Yin Shirshir, who was still in a daze, frowned at their careless actions. Muyaja grumbled, "You're hurting her." The group of people instantly turned pale with fright and stood rooted to the ground. "Clumsy thing, scram." Muyaja was extremely irritated. He pushed the bed away and personally carried Yin Shirshir in his arms. His movements were extremely gentle and careful, as if she was the most precious treasure in the world. He held her in his arms and used his hands to support her body. In her daze, Yin Shirshir seemed to feel a great sense of security from his arms. She actually snuggled closer to his chest. Her delicate little face was buried in his arms. Her brows gradually relaxed. Because of the dependence that this action unintentionally revealed, Muyaja's heart calmed down. In an instant, a certain part of his heart softened. Chapter 7:12. Muyaja lowered his gaze to look at her quiet and gentle face, and his lips involuntarily curled into a satisfied smile. He liked this feeling. He liked the feeling of being relied on by the woman in his arms. He wanted to be the man she relied on for the rest of her life. Muyaja couldn't help but hug her tighter, but he was worried that he would hurt her if he hugged her too tightly. However, he couldn't bear to let go. He carried her and strode to the intensive care unit. The people behind him looked at each other. Young Master Mu. Was he smiling just now? At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Mu Wanru arrived at the Chinese commune on time for the appointment. The Chinese commune was located at number 9 Chang'an Street. The Chang'an Club occupied 12 floors in the Chinese building. As soon as she stepped in, she was greeted by the elegant and exquisite retro palatial style. It was said that the annual membership fee of the Chinese Commune Private Club was as high as 10 million yuan. The private members of the Chinese Commune were either rich or respectable. If one didn't have a net worth of hundreds of millions, he or she wouldn't be qualified to enter. Who was the person who asked her to come here? What was his or her identity? Mu Wanru pursed her lips, feeling a little nervous. There were a few pieces of information in the email just now, and they were all her DNA test reports. If these reports fell into the hands of the Mu family, she didn't dare to imagine what would be waiting for her. No matter what, she had to meet him or her friend. At least, this person had sent her an email to threaten her, which meant that there was still room for negotiation, and that she was useful to him. Mu Wanru was very meticulous, and she quickly thought of this. Following the room number sent in the email, she opened the door and saw a luxurious living room. She was a little surprised, but she immediately closed the door. The private club was very well hidden. Many big shots would do business here, because of the high level of privacy of this private club. Mu Wanru walked in and looked around. There was a stack of documents on the coffee table. Her gaze slowly fell on the stack of documents, and she frowned. She was curious. What were those? She took a deep breath and looked around again. Then, she carefully walked forward and picked up the stack of documents. With just a glance, he was stunned as if he had been struck by lightning. This information was none other than the most confidential documents related to her background. To put it bluntly, this was an extremely detailed investigation report. Even the identity of her biological father and biological mother, home address, mobile phone number, ID number, workplace. Everything was listed out in detail and clear at a glance. Why was her DNA report here? Hadn't she already bribed someone to destroy it? She remembered very clearly that she had burned all the information. Even the DNA gene bank did not exist. Her DNA sample had been destroyed by her. The doctor who did the DNA test for her had already left the country. But why would these reports appear here? What was the intention of the person who asked her to meet here? Could it be That the doctor had secretly hidden a copy? Impossible. They had signed a confidentiality agreement. Moreover, she had given that person a large sum of money, enough for him to squander for the rest of his life. Then who could it be? Mu Wanru skimmed through the information. These were the evidence that she wanted to destroy the most. Who was it? Who was it? Chapter 7:13. Was he threatening her? The more Mu Wanru thought about it, the more fearful she felt. A frightening chill spread from her feet to her limbs. Her face turned pale in an instant, and her fingertips trembled uncontrollably. She lost her grip on the documents and scattered them all over the floor. Mu Wanru's chest heaved uncontrollably. She was clearly still in shock. She tried to calm herself down and slowly squatted down to pick them up. A man's deep voice was heard from behind her. "Are you frightened by the documents?" The abrupt voice was very deep and low, but it was like a sudden clap of thunder in the originally silent room. Mu Wanru screamed in fright and turned around abruptly. Her eyes widened in horror as she followed the voice. She looked in the direction of the voice. She saw a man in a tang suit slowly walking toward her from a corner of the living room. His face, which was originally hidden in the shadows, was gradually exposed under the bright light. The man closed in on her. Mu Wanru was so shocked that she held her breath. She then retreated in fear and warily sized up the man in front of her. Standing in front of her was an unfamiliar middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s. He was dressed in expensive clothes and had an extraordinary bearing. His every movement was elegant and noble. One look and one could tell that he was either rich or respectable. The man's footsteps halted slightly. Mu Wanru still had some lingering fear in her heart. Her vigilant gaze slowly landed on his face. Even though the man was getting on in years, she could still tell that he was handsome beyond compare when he was younger. His handsome features and handsome silhouette were somewhat similar to Mu Sheng's. Mu Wanru felt that his face was somewhat familiar, but she could not recall where she had seen this man before. She felt that he was exceptionally familiar, but she could not remember who he was. She tried hard to recall, but she really could not recall where she had seen him before. Mu Wanru's heart was filled with doubts, but the middle-aged man just looked at her and laughed. The boldness in his laughter was something that only the elderly and the upper class had. He looked at her and spoke in a gentle voice that an elder would use to talk to a junior. "Why? Can't you recognize me?" His question stumped her. "It's a little familiar. Who are you?" Mu Wanru narrowed her eyes. She did not let down her guard as she questioned him suspiciously. The man frowned at her straightforward question, without any honorifics. He felt that Mu Wanru had no manners at all. Hence he sneered but did not answer her question. Instead, he sat down on the sofa. He casually poured himself a cup of tea, and took a sip. His calm and composed demeanor revealed the elegance of a person in a position of power in the upper class. His leisurely attitude made her feel even more embarrassed. She stood helplessly on the spot, not knowing what to do. The man's faces and the man's S's. "Why are you so nervous?" The man looked up and saw her defensive and vigilant face. He couldn't help but laugh. "Am I a tiger?" "And I have a seat." His expression and tone were full of the affection and maturity that an elder should have. Compared to him, Mu Wanru felt that her reaction was as childish as a child's. Still, she was a little hesitant. Chapter 7:14. "If I wanted to harm you, you wouldn't exist in this world anymore." What did he mean by that? Mu Wanru understood a few points. Firstly, this man was very powerful and could easily crush her to death. Second, this man had her life in his hands, which was enough to kill her. Third, at least for now, this man was not her enemy. As for whether he was her friend or not, that was another story. Mu Wanru's uneasy heart calmed down a little. She sat down on the sofa and carefully observed the man's every move. 15 minutes had passed by the time the man finished his cup of tea, but he was not in a hurry to speak. She did not know if he was deliberately whetting her appetite, but he poured himself another cup of tea and calmly savored it. He drank 3 cups of tea in a row, yet he did not say a word to break the silence. Mu Wanru felt like she was sitting on pins and needles in this suffocating silence. Seeing that he was about to pour another cup of tea after finishing the 3rd cup, she could not help but ask carefully, "You are?" Young people really can't keep their cool. It's only been 3 cups of tea, yet you're already so impatient. The middle-aged man snorted, dissatisfied with her impatience. Are you the one who sent me the email? Mu Wanru changed her tone and used honorifics. She was in awe of this middle-aged man. The man smiled with squinted eyes and lightly reminded her, according to seniority, you should call me fourth uncle. Fourth uncle? Mu Wanru's eyes widened in confusion. Fourth uncle? Isn't that Mu Lianjue? Mu Xing had 3 wives. According to the ranking, Mu Lianqing was the second, while the fourth was Mu Lianjue, the son of his 3rd wife. However, Grandpa Mu had always paid attention to the distinction between the legitimate wife and the concubine. Mu Lianjue was a concubine's son, so he and his 3rd wife had always lived in the Mu residence in the south of the city. Speaking of this residence, there were a total of 5 residences. The main residence was located in the most prominent location in the center of the capital. There were 4 other residences in the east, south, west, and north of the city for the illegitimate sons and the collateral relatives. Only the direct descendants had the right to live in the main residence. Fourth uncle, could this man be Mu Lianjue? Mu Wanru pondered for a moment before she uttered the name. Mu Lianjue? Impudent. Mu Lianjue's expression changed as he slammed the teacup on the table. With a loud bang, the tea splashed everywhere, startling Mu Wanru. Mu Lianjue's eagle-like eyes pierced her body. His face was overflowing with anger as he reprimanded. Is my name something you have the right to call? Without manners as this. She immediately lowered her head in guilt. I'm sorry. It's my fault for not knowing proper etiquette. This man was indeed Mu Lianjue. She suddenly recalled that she had seen the Mu family's family photo before. In it, she had seen this man's face standing to the left of Mu Sheng. It was just that the photo was taken a few years ago, so the man's face in it was still young. Hence, she did not recall it at first. The anger on his face did not dissipate. Outrageous. I'm sorry, fourth uncle. This is my first time meeting you in person, and I was impressed by your magnanimity. That's why I lost my composure. Please forgive me. Mu Wanru sincerely apologized, bringing out the good manners she had learned in the Mu family. She heard that Mu Lianjue was a ruthless person. Chapter 7:15. Mu Lianjue sneered. Do you know why I called you here? Mu Wanru's heart skipped a beat. It turned out that he was the one who had sent the email. What was his motive? Mu Wanru could not help but be on guard. As if seeing through her thoughts, he mocked her coldly. You're still young and inexperienced. Don't try to play tricks with me. You don't have to be wary of me either. After all, we have common interests. What do you mean? Mu Wanru's face was as white as snow as she lifted her eyes to look at him in confusion. Can you be more specific? Mu Wanru, you've seen the information earlier, right? He did not intend to beat around the bush, and went straight to the point. Mu Wanru's face instantly turned ugly. She bit her lower lip guiltily, not knowing whether to admit it or not. She could only remain silent. You don't have to hide anything from me. Do you really think that you can hide what you've done from the heavens? Besides, I'm not that old good-for-nothing Mu Sheng. I'm not fooled by you and fooled by you. He's getting on in years. If he's still the Mu Sheng from 20 years ago, your little tricks won't work. His words stung her so much that it was as if ice had covered her face. Her lips trembled as she asked in trepidation. What do you know? You're asking me what I know about you? As if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world, he slowly lit a cigar, took a puff, and exhaled slowly. Then he stood up and walked to the bedside. With his back facing her, he unhurriedly said, I know that your biological mother is a masseuse. You were abandoned at the entrance of the hospital when you were born. Later, you were claimed by a couple. They met with a car accident and passed away, so you were sent to Shengda Private Welfare Institute. Luo Hanjin. You must be unfamiliar with this name, right? Back then, in order to get the status, snacks, and pretty clothes you wanted in the Welfare Institute, you didn't hesitate to have an affair with the director. At such a young age, you know how to sell your body in exchange for what you want. Your methods are very dirty. Yun Shishir was sent to the Welfare Institute because she witnessed you having an affair with the director. You tried to chase her away. You snatched her jade pendant and wanted to sell it. But you didn't expect that before that. The Mu family came to look for Mu Qingqing's lost daughter. You were accidentally accepted into the Mu family. When you were in your 20s, Grandpa Mu did a DNA test report for you. You didn't hesitate to bribe the doctor with a sky-high amount of money to destroy the real report and force him to leave the country. When you found out that Yun Shirshir was Mu Qingqing's real daughter, you and Aaron, and even spared no expense to hire. Every word he uttered was like a poisoned sword stabbing into her body. Mu Wanru's face gradually lost its color. It was as white as a sheet of paper and as white as wax. It was a tragic sight. As he spoke, he suddenly turned around with a sinister smile. His hawk-like sharp eyes focused on her flat stomach as he coldly said, "The child in your stomach right now is that Aaron's flesh and blood, right? You colluded with him to protect your position in the Mu family. I'm right, aren't I?" Chapter 7:16. Mu Wanru's expression changed. She slumped on the sofa as if she had lost her soul. She stared at him in disbelief. Everything he said was the truth, so she had to believe it. Where did he get this information from, though? Her hands and feet were clean, so how did he find out? Could it be that someone had betrayed her? Was it the doctor? Or Aaron? Mu Wanru frowned. After thinking about it, she felt that everyone around her was very suspicious. "No one betrayed you." Seeing through her thoughts, he said lightly, "I've got a rough idea of what you're capable of. Unlike you, I never do things that I'm not sure of. Do you think I'm short-sighted and simple-minded like you?" "Impossible." "What's impossible?" He laughed. "You're saying that it's impossible for me to know all this." Mu Wanru was speechless and clenched her fists tightly. She did not leave any traces, so how did he know? "Ha! Mu Wanru, you're too naive. Do you really think that the Muse are as simple as you think?" He laughed mockingly. "I'm old and muddle-headed. Even my eyes can't see clearly. It's inevitable for me to be muddle-headed at my age. Do you really think that you didn't give yourself away with all these things? These reports. I've clearly destroyed them. Where did they come from?" Mu Wanru raised the stack of reports in her hands with bloodshot eyes. "These aren't the ones you destroyed," he said. Mu Wanru was startled and did not understand his words. Where did these reports come from then? His next words, however, shocked her to her core. "Mu Wanru, you don't know, right? He's done 2 DNA tests for you." "What?" Mu Wanru almost screamed as she glared at him. "Grandpa did 2 DNA tests for me? Why didn't I know?" Mu Lianjue snorted in disdain, calling him Grandpa so affectionately. "Don't forget that you're an imposter, Mu Wanru." Mu Wanru was at a loss for words. She was choked by him. But now, regardless of whether she was an imposter or not, she just wanted to clarify one thing. Did he really do 2 paternity tests for me? Mu Lianjue took a puff of the cigar and slowly exhaled. The thick smoke wantonly flew toward Mu Wanru's anxious face. Cough. The pungent smell of the cigar caused her to cough uncontrollably. Mu Lianjue's next words were out of the blue. "I did it the first time not long after you returned to the Mu family. At that time, you had a fever. When you went to the hospital, I took your blood and sent the blood sample for testing." "Impossible." Cough. Mu Wanru held back her coughing and frowned. "If I really did it, Grandpa would have found out that I'm an imposter and chased me out of the Mu family long ago. You're clearly fooling me." "Fooling you?" Mu Lianjue sneered. "Mu Wanru, you're really interesting. I thought you were smart, but I didn't expect you to be so stupid. Then answer me. Since Grandpa did a DNA test for me once, why did he do it again when I was 18? He stared at her anxious face. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the wrinkled report in her hand and curled up his lips. "Where do you think that stack of reports in your hand came from?" Chapter 7:17. "Why yes, Mu Wanru stared straight at him. Her eyes were filled with surprise, horror, astonishment, and finally, fear that seeped from her bones. It was as if she was on the verge of bursting out. Mu Lianjue looked at her trembling lips, unable to utter a complete sentence for a long time. He could not help but find it funny. She was frightened just like that? This lass's skills were still very shallow compared to his. Mu Wanru looked at his cold face and asked in surprise, "You did it?" He slowly exhaled the smoke and confessed, I did the same thing as you. The meaning of his words could not be more obvious. Back then, the paternity test report that Mu Sheng gave Mu Wanru was done in the Mu Group's private hospital. That hospital was under his control, so it was not troublesome for him to get his hands on the real report. It was just that his methods were more ruthless than Mu Wanru's. Mu Wanru had bribed that doctor and in the end, paid him a sky-high sum of money, signed a non-disclosure agreement, and went overseas. Mu Lianjue, on the other hand, controlled that doctor to forge a fake paternity test report. In the end, he killed the doctor and destroyed the evidence. Moreover, it was done very cleanly. Hence, even Mu Yaja had yet to find out the truth about this matter. He only knew that Mu Wanru's DNA test report was fake, but he could not find a witness. Nonsense. The person was already dead and his body had turned to ashes. How could he find him? After that, the doctor that Mu Wanru bribed finally flew overseas to America. He was worried that the doctor's mouth would not be reliable. He knew that Mu Yaja's methods, he would definitely find out that it was him. This nephew of his was even more ruthless than him. So what if Mu Wanru bribed the doctor? When the time came, Mu Yaja would have plenty of ways to get the doctor to testify. Hence, he sent people to chase the doctor to America to silence him. In the end, the doctor's body was thrown into the sea without leaving any traces behind. A living person could be forced to confess, but a dead person couldn't possibly speak. Mu Wanru was deeply intimidated by the viciousness in his eyes. Her breathing suddenly quickened, and she found it hard to calm down. She knew in her heart that this man was a sinister and vicious character. When she was 9 years old, she had just returned to the Mu family. Even the rest of the Mu family did not know about it. He had her real report, which meant that he had already figured out her identity before this. At the very least, it showed that this man's sensitivity and shrewdness were extremely terrifying. Mu Wanru's fear of him was getting stronger and stronger. This man, it was too terrifying. Mu Wanru clenched the documents in her hands tightly. That meant that all the documents were in her hands. It seemed that this man had already expected this. Perhaps he had some ulterior motive, and wanted to use this opportunity to threaten her into becoming his slave. Based on this information, she looked at the information in her hand carefully. The doctor's signature was real. It seemed that this was the original. This man, is he also old and muddle-headed? How could such important information fall into her hands? Amidst Mu Wanru's excessive fear, an extreme thought popped up in her mind. Now that the information was in her hands, if she did not destroy it now, when would she? Should she wait for this man to threaten her? No. Chapter 718. Mu Lianjue stood in front of the window with a calm face from start to finish. He was unmoved by her series of crazy actions, as if her actions had nothing to do with him. He just watched her burn the original copy of the document. The fire quickly engulfed the paper that was filled with densely packed data. In the end, it completely turned into ashes. She swung her hand and let the ball of fire fall to the ground. The fierce fire burned the expensive carpet in the living room. She looked at the important evidence of her crime with a ferocious expression until the fire went out. Looking at the ashes on the ground, she then raised the corner of her lips and smiled proudly, revealing her white teeth. Ha! Ha ha ha! Mu Wanru raised her head and looked at him smugly. Gritting her teeth, she said, "With just this? You want to threaten me with just this? Let's see how you're going to threaten me now." Mu Lianjue, on the other hand, was unperturbed. He just looked calmly at Mu Wanru, who seemed to have gone mad. A trace of pity and contempt surfaced in his eyes, as if he found her pitiful. Mu Wanru's laughter came to an abrupt halt when she saw his calm expression. Her expression turned cold all of a sudden. What's wrong? Why did he look so calm? She had already burned the evidence. Was he not anxious at all? Could it be that he still had something on her? Do you think you can sit back and relax after burning this information? He gently placed the cigar in the ashtray and lazily raised his eyes with a hint of a smile. It was as if he was mocking her ignorance. What do you mean? Mu Wanru suddenly felt that this man was too unfathomable. After thinking about it carefully, she felt that her earlier actions were too impulsive and naive. From the moment she entered the room, the document had been placed in the most conspicuous position. She had seen it at a glance. What did this mean? Did this mean that this document was not important to him? Or was this not the original document at all, and was a fake? There's no need to doubt it. This document is real, and this is the only original copy. As if he could read her mind, he said coldly, "Do you think that you can destroy all the evidence by burning the original?" Mu Wanru was suddenly shocked and asked suspiciously, "You kept my blood sample?" "You're not too stupid." He snorted contemptuously. "So what if I don't have your blood sample? You can easily destroy the evidence of your crimes. But do you know that the greatest evidence of your crimes is the blood flowing in your body? Can you replace your blood with the real one?" Mu Wanru's face instantly turned pale. Yes, the blood in her body was irrefutable evidence of her crime. How could she? She was too impulsive. She was too full of herself. Mu Lianjue pressed the doorbell, and soon, someone hurried into the room to replace the burnt carpet. Mu Wanru stood rooted to the ground. It was not until he sat back on the sofa that he calmly reminded her. "Mu Wanru, I advise you not to struggle anymore. You're on my side now. That's the only way to protect yourself." "What's your motive?" Mu Wanru, who was sitting opposite him, tried her best to calm her frightened emotions as she asked calmly. "I thought you were very clear about my motive." Chapter 719. He sneered, his voice as cold as ice. "This position belongs to me in the first place. I'm just taking back what's rightfully mine." "Mu Yaja won't give it to you." Mu Wanru pursed her lips. "He's the strongest candidate to be the head of the Mu family now." He curled his lips and said cruelly, "That's why I want to get rid of him." "Get rid of him?" Mu Wanru's heart skipped a beat before she shouted, "No. You can't get rid of him." Mu Wanru's face turned red in agitation. He mocked, "Why? Are you still daydreaming about being the young mistress of the Mu family?" His sarcasm was like a bloody sword, stabbing into her heart. After a pause, he asked sarcastically, "Or do you still love this man?" Mu Wanru bit her lip. Yes, she still loved this man in her heart. She loved and hated him at the same time. She admitted that she loved this man more than Yin Shishir, and not less than Yin Shishir. She used to love him so much that she was crazy about him. However, this man did not love her. "Don't be silly. He won't marry you," he mocked coldly. Mu Wanru frowned but did not say a word. He leaned back slightly and said in a low voice, "This nephew of mine is just like his father. He values relationships and righteousness. Once he's set his mind on someone, he'll be stubborn to the end. You're not in his heart. There's only that lass, Yin Shishir, in it. Don't fantasize about being the young mistress of the Mu family. It's nothing more than a pipe dream. He'll realize how good I am sooner or later. My love for him is no less than that B******'s. Mu Wanru flew into a rage out of humiliation. "Realize how good you are?" he sneered. "How naive. Do you think he doesn't know about your little tricks? That's where you're stupid. Playing tricks under his nose. Do you really think my nephew is an ordinary person? But even if he knows, what can he do to me?" Mu Wanru said stubbornly. So what if Mu Yaja knew what she had done? With Mu Sheng standing in front of her, what else could he do to her? Mu Lianjue replied, "Sure enough. She's fearless just because Mu Sheng dotes on her. But why don't you think about how many more days those old bones have left to live?" Mu Wanru was stunned. He was right. Her current status in the Mu family was entirely due to Mu Sheng's protection, but if he was no longer around one day, she would be all alone in the huge Mu family. Seeing her wavering, he slowly added the last bit of fuel to the fire. "Once Mu Sheng dies, your time of death will soon come. This nephew of mine won't let you live." Mu Wanru's eyes turned cold. She was badly frightened. "You're lying. He won't kill me." Mu Yaja was not him. His methods would not be so cruel. Mu Lianjue nodded in agreement and replied casually, "That's right. But he can make you wish you were dead." "Fourth uncle, what do you mean by that?" He snorted. "You're still defending him even now. Why don't you think about who caused you to end up like this?" "What do you mean? What did he mean by that?" This old thing only knew how to keep her in suspense. Chapter 720. "I thought that I was infertile, so I didn't take any precautions." Mu Wanru bit her lower lip with a red face. There's no such thing as congenital infertility. Mu Lianjue smirked. That's just a trap set by Mu Yaja. Mu Wanru's face froze as if she had been struck by lightning. Her eyebrows twitched violently. You're saying that infertility report from 6 years ago was forged by Mu Yaja? You don't know about it, do you? It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck. She stared at him, flabbergasted. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Impossible. You're nothing more than a pawn of his. What infertility? It's all fake. It's a pity that you're full of feelings for him. Yet you're being played by him from start to end. Mu Wanru, you're really pitiful. Mu Wanru clenched her fists tightly. Every word he uttered was destroying her psychological defenses. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were cold and boundless. Fourth uncle, it seems that I'm still of use to you. That's right. Is it because of Mu Xing's love for me? Yes. He slowly stood up. That old man's health may be deteriorating, but he's still in control of the Mu family. You're the only one in the family who can get close to him. If I help you, what will I get in return? Mu Lianjue replied. I'll give you a lifetime's worth of wealth and splendor. That's not enough. Mu Wanru smirked. Before I help you, I want you to get rid of 2 people for me. Oh, Yin Shishir and Yin Tianyu. Mu Wanru spat through gritted teeth. In the special intensive care unit, Yin Shishir slowly opened her eyes. The moment she opened her eyes, she felt a stinging pain in her left eye. In front of her eyes, there was blood red. Her heart skipped a beat. Closing her eyes tightly, she slowly sat up on the bed and scanned the room with her half-opened right eye. To her surprise, she saw Xiao Yichen lying on the bed, clutching her hand tightly. He seemed to be asleep. He fell asleep. On the other hand, Mu Yaja was lying on the right side of the bed. His warm big palm was wrapped tightly around her hand, and he was resting his head on his sturdy arm. His eyelids were drooping, and he seemed to have fallen asleep as well. His jet-black hair covered his eyelids, and a few strands of hair fell in between his slightly furrowed brows, making his face look as white as snow. The father and son, one on the left and one on the right, each held one of her hands. The warmth of their palms traveled along her fingertips to her heart, as if dispelling the coldness in the ward in an instant. Yin Shishir originally had a splitting headache, but when she opened her eyes and saw the father and son guarding by the bed, even the most intense pain subsided a little. Her lips could not help but curve into a warm smile. The door to the ward was suddenly pushed open slightly. Yin Shishir was startled to see Yu walking in with 2 heavy kettles, and a shopping bag full of bread and snacks in his mouth. Looking up, he saw Yin Shishir sitting up on the bed. Yu raised his eyebrows and widened his eyes in relief. He put down the things, and was about to speak when Yin Shishir mouthed the word hush. Shoo. Seeing her cautious look, Yin Tianyu's hands became lighter. He tiptoed to the bedside and whispered, Mommy, you're awake. Chapter 721. I just woke up. You've been unconscious for a day and a night. It's good that you're awake. A day and a night. Had she been unconscious for that long? The doctor said that Mommy has a slight concussion, so. Yu carefully moved a small stool to her right. He then took out an apple and started peeling it bit by bit with a knife. Yin Shishir asked curiously, Why am I in the hospital? Stupid Mommy, you're injured. Of course, you have to be sent to the hospital. Yu looked helpless. Besides, your injury is a little serious. You need to recuperate. He deliberately sat on Yin Shishir's right side because her left eardrum was perforated. He was afraid that she could not hear him clearly if he spoke from her left side. Just as Yin Shishir was done with the hospitalization procedures, Mu Yaja brought him and Xiao Yichen over. Initially, the boy thought that she had suffered a serious injury and was on tenterhooks. He wished that he could grow a pair of wings and fly to Yin Shishir's side. However, when he arrived at the hospital, he learned from the doctor that her eardrum was damaged due to an external force during filming. She would recover after a few days of rest. Still feeling uneasy, he repeatedly inquired about her condition. The doctor assured him that there would not be any sequelae. Only then did he feel at ease. Of course, Mu Yaja did not tell him the truth. Otherwise, who knew what kind of bloodshed this little devil would stir up? Mu Yaja sensitively realized that this little Yu, who looked innocent and harmless on the surface, had a little devil sealed in his heart. Once his bottom line was crossed, the devil in him would awaken. Yin Shirshir, on the other hand, was his bottom line and his reverse scale. He had no doubt that if Yin Tianyu knew the truth, not only would he destroy the opera troupe of the Green Apple in a fit of rage, he would also turn Huanyu upside down. Still, he knew that this matter could not be kept under wraps for long. He only hoped that he would personally handle this matter. Xiao Yichen was even more worried than Yin Shirshir. When he entered the ward, Yin Shirshir was still in a coma. When he saw her swollen face, tears streamed down his face. He hugged Yin Shirshir's arm and cried his heart out. Yin Tianyu, who was standing at the side, calmly observed Yin Shirshir's condition. His expression was heavy, and his eyes flashed with suspicion. Just as Mu Yaja thought that he had discovered something fishy, Yin Tianyu stepped forward and pushed Xiao Yichen away. He stood protectively in front of Yin Shirshir and said indignantly, "You're not allowed to take advantage of my mommy." "Humph. But she's still my mommy," Xiao Yichen reminded him indignantly. Yin Tianyu coldly snorted. The two lads even got into a fight over this matter, causing Mu Yaja to be in a terrible fix. In the end, he could not take it anymore and gave each of them a flick. "Your mommy is still lying on the bed. If you want to fight, do it outside. Come in after you're done fighting." Seeing that Mu Yaja was angry, the two lads calmed down. Only then did the two little fellows settle down. They decided not to cause any more trouble and shook hands. The two lads secretly made up their minds. At least for their mommy's sake, they would temporarily stop fighting and get along amicably. The father-son trio took turns guarding her bed for the whole night. Yin Shirshir stared at Yin Tianyu's tender, snow-white face and asked with narrowed eyes, "Yu, did you bully Big Brother?" "Mommy, I'm innocent." "Yu doesn't bully children," Yin Tianyu said softly, but his hands did not stop moving. "Really?" Chapter 722. As he spoke, he skillfully peeled off the apple's skin layer by layer with a small knife. He then cut the flesh into small pieces, picked up a piece with a fork, and brought it to her mouth. "Here, Mommy." "Ah." "Oh." Yin Shirshir opened her mouth and bit into the apple. The sweet juice overflowed and lingered in her mouth. "It's so sweet." "Yes. Of course it's sweet. You picked these personally." Yin Tianyu pursed his lips into a smile, looking very pleased with himself. "You're so smart." Yin Shirshir could not help chuckling. "Mommy, are you hungry? You bought you a lot of food. There's your favorite custard buns, fragrant taro cream cake, mung bean cake." You placed the food on the table one by one like a good wife and loving mother. No one knew his mother better than him. He knew that she was so hungry that her eyes were turning green, yet he still chose her favorite flavor for each food. Yin Shirshir was touched by her precious son's actions. She felt that, at this moment, he was emitting a holy light. Yin Tianyu looked up and saw Yin Shirshir's pious, praying gaze. "Mommy, why are you looking at me as if I'm the Virgin Mary?" Yu quietly complained. "Yu, Mommy loves you so much. Mommy, you clearly love custard buns and fragrant taro cream cake." Yu quietly complained again. "Yu, life is hard, so don't expose me. Don't expose Mommy." Yu's eyes drooped aggrievedly. "Yu is so sad. Mommy loves custard buns more than Yu." Yin Shirshir's lips twitched violently. What was the level of jealousy? It meant that one could be jealous of anything, even food. It was the highest level. You get jealous so easily. "Mommy, you're number one in Yu's heart." Yu snorted as a gentle and doting smile appeared on her face. He then opened the wrapper of the custard buns, cut the bread into delicate pieces with a knife, and fed them into Yin Shirshir's mouth. Yin Shirshir was so touched that her heart almost melted. This was probably the pinnacle of happiness. Yin Shirshir suddenly had a feeling and said longingly, "Yu, don't get married in the future. Take care of Mommy for the rest of your life." Yin Tianyu gently lowered his gaze as his lips curled into a doting smile. "Okay." Yin Shirshir chuckled and immediately said, "Mommy was just joking. You can't take it seriously." Yu is serious." Yin Tianyu's hands did not stop moving as he inserted the straw into the milk bottle. He looked up at her tenderly. "You will take care of Mommy for the rest of my life. Yin Shirshir was stunned and could not react in time. She had always known how dependent Yu was on her, but she did not expect him to rely on her so much. Can't I? Yu saw the shock on her face and chuckled. Mommy, you should feel blessed to have such a handsome son to take care of you for the rest of your life. But Yu will have a girl he likes in the future. Yin Shirshir decided to enlighten him. There won't be. Yin Tianyo's little hand gently fiddled with the straw as he raised a brow. I've said it before. No one can replace Mommy in Yu's heart. Yin Shirshir frowned and then pursed her lips. The child was still young. She was the person he relied on the most. That might not be the case when he grew up. He was still a child, he was still immature. Chapter 723. Little guy, why does Mommy love you so much? Let Mommy give you a good massage. Yin Shirshir could not resist pulling her hand out of Muyaja's palm and pinched the boy's tender cheeks. She did not use much strength, but neither was she gentle. Even so, Yu did not show any signs of impatience on his face. Instead, he said in a pampering voice, Mommy, you're so lively, you don't look like you're injured at all. You're a patient. Mommy isn't a patient to begin with. Mommy, be gentle, be gentle. While the mother and son were fooling around, Muyaja's shoulder shook slightly. Even in his sleep, he felt his palm become empty and immediately woke up uneasily. Muyaja raised his head and opened his cold eyes. His blurry vision gradually became clear. In his line of sight, Yin Shirshir was holding Yin Tianyu in her arms and pinching his face wantonly. Yu did not struggle or resist. He nestled in her arms contentedly and let her pinch him as she pleased. From time to time, he would let out a crisp and tender laughter. There was a gentle smile on her small face that was as white as porcelain. Only then did Muyaja's tense heart relax slightly. Just now he had a dream. In his dream, he was standing on a wooden bridge with her. Under the bridge, there was a turbulent river. He held her hand tightly and walked carefully on the wooden bridge. Suddenly, her hand loosened and they fell from the bridge. He woke up with a start. It was only when he saw the mother and son looking at each other at the head of the bed that he realized that it was just a nightmare. It was a false alarm. Xiao Yichen was also awakened by the noise. He rubbed his sleepy eyes and raised his head, only to see Yin Tianyu nestled in Yin Shirshir's arms and playing around. His face was slightly red and his handsome brows were slightly furrowed. Mommy, he called out in a crisp voice. Yin Shirshir looked up and saw that he was awake. Her eyes curved gently as she said gently, Xiao Yichen, you're awake. Yes. Xiao Yichen shyly pursed his lips. Realizing that he had fallen asleep earlier, he said guiltily, I've been accompanying Mommy all this while. I'm a little tired, so I accidentally fell asleep. Yin Shirshir was taken aback. She was slightly touched, but at the same time, her heart ached for him. You must be tired. Do you want to sleep for a while more? No. I want to accompany Mommy. Mommy, does your face still hurt? Xiao Yichen's eyes. He blinked his big, watery eyes as he carefully examined the swollen half of her face. It's a little, but it's still swollen. It must be very painful. Yu pouted and grumbled. Speaking of which, stupid Mommy, what's wrong with you? Why is your face swollen like this from filming? After a pause, his eyes slowly narrowed as he asked suspiciously, Don't tell me that someone in the production team bullied Mommy? Yin Shirshir's smile froze. Xiao Yichen, who was beside her, also expressed his doubts. I think it's suspicious too. Daddy said that Mommy got hurt during filming, but I don't believe him. There's an obvious handprint on Mommy's face. It seems like she was slapped. Yes. I saw it. It's a bloody handprint. Mommy, did someone in the production team bully you? The two little lads approached her suspiciously. Their palm-sized handsome faces were close to her, and their big, sparkling eyes were full of suspicion. Yin Shirshir's heart skipped a beat. Chapter 724. Did these two have to be so perceptive? Mommy, who bullied you? Tell us. I'll definitely bully them back. Me too. With us around, who dares to lay a finger on you? The two brothers stood by the bed with their arms around each other's shoulders. At this moment, they were actually united against a common enemy, and looked as if they were going to take revenge for her. At this moment, the two brothers were of one mind. In the past, they would be fighting fiercely for her attention, but now they were like close comrades in arms, echoing each other. Yin Shirshir and Muyaja exchanged glances, and could not help laughing at their serious looks. Stop fooling around. We're not fooling around. Yes, we're not fooling around. Xiao Yichen quickly echoed. Yin Tianyu clenched his fists tightly. Indignation surfaced in his eyes as he said indignantly, Mommy was bullied, so we're going to take revenge for her. Xiao Yichen's actions were in sync with his. Clenching his fists, he angrily echoed, Yes. Take revenge for Mommy. Let them know the consequences of bullying my mommy. Yes. What consequences? Yu angrily said. The heavens won't tolerate bullying my mommy. Yes. The heavens won't tolerate it. Yin Tianyu turned his gaze to Xiao Yichen's face with displeasure and warned, Idiot, don't imitate me. I didn't imitate you. I heard you imitate me just now. You're just like a parrot. You only know how to imitate people. You're the parrot. You're the parrot. You're the parrot. 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 Idiot. Idiot. Super big idiot. Reflect. Reflect your reflection. Reflect, reflect, reflect. The two little lads disagreed and started fighting among themselves again. Their faces flushed red as they bared their fangs and brandished their claws at each other in a heated argument. Muyaja rubbed his forehead, feeling a headache coming on. Why couldn't these two guys get along peacefully? Just a moment ago, they were clearly brothers of one mind and united against a common enemy. Now they were fighting among themselves. He immediately walked forward, one in each hand, and hugged the two soft and adorable little munchkins in his arms. In a low voice he said, Don't make noise. Yin Tianyu did not buy it though. Crossing his arms across his chest, he snorted and turned his face away to ignore him. Xiao Yichen, on the other hand, felt extremely aggrieved. His eyes drooped and he looked like he was about to cry. Daddy is fierce. I don't want Daddy. I want Mommy. Xiao Yichen opened his arms to Yin Shirshir, asking for a hug. Yin Shirshir's heart immediately softened. She reached out to take him and held him in her arms. When Yu saw this, she was a little jealous. She immediately struggled to get down from Muyaja's body and threw herself into Yin Shirshir's arms. Mommy's embrace was his territory, and he had to defend it unconditionally. Muyaja did not intend to give him the chance to do so though. He tightened his grip on the boy's shoulders and pulled him into his embrace. He rubbed his handsome face against the boy's rosy cheeks. You be good. Daddy will carry you. I don't want you to carry me. Muyaja's handsome eyes showed a hint of hurt and grievance. Why don't you want Daddy to carry you? He was rarely this close to Xiao Yichen, but this little guy was different from Xiao Yichen. She was proud and arrogant, soft and adorable. She was clearly teasing him. Chapter 725. Muyaja caught Yuyu's naughty hand and smiled mischievously. He glanced at Yuyu's blushing face. He was obviously embarrassed. However, even though he said no, he did not struggle or resist too intensely. Feeling embarrassed and annoyed, the boy glared at him aggrievedly. He turned his face away from him and pursed his pink lips into an arrogant line. He seemed to be resisting silently. This little bun was really stubborn. Just whose genes did he inherit this tsundere personality from? Muyaja grabbed his chin and turned his face, forcing him to look at him. Yuyu struggled for a while, trying to get rid of Muyaja's restraint. But how could he resist the strength in his hands? Seeing that he could not break free, he simply gave up. He only glared at him with a warning look. The threat in his eyes was obvious. Muyaja smiled. This was the first time he was looking at his son's face up close. His black hair was very smooth, especially under the light. It looked even softer and brighter. He had a palm-sized snow-white face, rosy cheeks, and a sharp nose. He had a pair of large, watery eyes, long and curved eyelashes, thick and soft, long and curly and slightly upturned, like two black feathers. His black pupils were as pure and clear as a lake. They were ethereal and charming. They were like dazzling diamonds without any impurities. They were breathtaking. He had inherited Yin Shirshir's beautiful eyes and his deep facial features. He was practically the embodiment of their strengths. There was no doubt that not long after, this little guy would grow into a handsome and exquisite young man. Yu Yu's face was burning under his stare. He glared back at him unhappily. It was as if he was fighting back. The father and son looked at each other in silence. Yin Shirshir was amused by Yu Yu's nervous expression. He laughed and said, Yu Yu, what's with that expression? Yu Yu's face turned even redder. He said awkwardly, he keeps staring at me. That's because Daddy likes you, right? Yin Shirshir coaxed him. I don't want him to like me, Yu Yu said stubbornly and pouted. Muyaja laughed and asked suddenly, Yu Yu, Daddy wants to play a game with you, okay? What game? Xiaoichen's favorite game. What? I'm not playing. Before he could finish his sentence, Muyaja held his body and threw him into the air. Wah! Yu Yu let out a scream. His body was thrown into the air and fell straight down. Muyaja hugged him tightly. Before he could protest, Muyaja threw him into the air again. Yu Yu's expression changed. He turned pale with fright and couldn't help but scream, Wah! So high. So high. He fell again in an instant. It was as if his heart was about to stop beating. He felt as if his heart was in his throat. Yu Yu fell from the air and was caught by Muyaja. He put his hands under the little boy's armpits and raised him high. Yu Yu was so scared that his face turned pale. Put me down. Put me down. He struggled, his two adorable short legs kicking wildly. Muyaja's hand trembled, eliciting another shriek from the boy. Oh no. I'm going to fall. Chapter 726. After 2 rounds, Yu Yu's back was drenched in cold sweat. He was so scared that his mouth was agape. Stop playing. It's not fun. What kind of lousy game is this? It's not fun at all. Yu Yu glared at Muyaja angrily. Afraid that he would throw him into the air again, his pair of small hands clutched his collar tightly as he bit his lower lip. Muyaja could not help raising an eyebrow when he saw the boy's pale face. This was probably the difference between the two children. Xiao Yichen especially liked this kind of thrilling game, but Yu Yu was terrified. He was careful not to throw him too high for fear that his little heart would not be able to take it. In the end, he still scared the little devil out of his wits. Be good and call me Daddy. Emph. Yu Yu still refused to admit his mistake. He squinted his eyes and sized him up indignantly. I won't call. I won't call. Stupid. Stupid. Before he could finish his words, Muyaja flicked his wrist again and threw him into the air. Yu Yu was so scared that he covered his eyes with his hands. Wah. His heart trembled in fear. Call me Daddy. I won't. Wah. Seeing how stubborn he was, Muyaja wanted to teach his proud son a lesson. Alas, after 2 rounds, Yin Tianyu could no longer put up a brave front. With a look of defeat, he hugged his father's neck tightly with both hands and cried, Daddy. Muyaja was stunned. He turned to look at the boy, only to see the latter's eyes tightly shut as he hugged his neck tightly. His face was buried in his chest, and his small and soft body was curled up into a ball as he trembled in fear. Daddy. Don't play anymore. I'm scared. Yu Yu's tone softened. His eyes were filled with tears of grievance as he pouted. This was clearly a compromise to him. Muyaja's gaze softened, and a certain part of his heart softened. His large palm gently covered his head and rubbed it. Be good, let's not play anymore. Yu Yu's eyes narrowed. She was really scared to tears. This game isn't fun at all. It's so scary. As she spoke, she closed her eyes. Bean-sized tears fell from the corners of her eyes, and she began to cry with grievance. Muyaja was at a loss of what to do as he watched little Munchkin sob softly in his arms. Tears rolled down his cheeks like silver beans. It dripped on the back of his hand. Muyaja furrowed his brows in confusion. Did he make this little bun cry? Faced with the child's tears, he could not help but feel a little helpless. He hurriedly tried to coax the child. Don't cry, don't cry. Daddy, hug me. As Yu Yu cried, she pushed his handsome face to the side in disdain. She continued to cry her heart out. Muyaja really did not know what to do with her. When a child cried, it was really a headache. What was even more troublesome was that Yu Yu's character was clearly not one to be swayed by force or persuasion. He could only hug Yu Yu in his arms and coax her gently. Yin Shirshir looked at this pair of jokers, and the corners of her lips twitched violently. In the end, when she saw Muyaja coax Yu Yu the way he coaxed her, she could not help but laugh out loud. Xiao Yichen lifted his head and saw Yin Shishir's beautiful and gentle smile. He could not help but laugh as well. Chapter 727. This time it was Mu Yaja and Yin Tianyou's turn to be dumbfounded. The father-son pair glared at Yin Shishir. One looked unhappy, while the other looked aggrieved. What's so funny? I think that you two are especially cute, Yin Shishir said bluntly. Yin Tianyou's aggrieved face was indescribable. He opened his arms to Yin Shishir and said in a choked voice, Mommy, hug Yu. Daddy isn't gentle at all. Yu is scared. His childish voice was laced with sobs. It was clear that he was complaining to Yin Shishir about Mu Yaja's roughness. Mu Yaja's thin lips twitched slightly. This little guy had cultivated to a certain level. When facing him, he would always speak in a stiff tone. However, when facing Yin Shishir, his tone was so soft that it was about to drip water. This difference in treatment was really unfair. This little lad was biased. Yin Shishir's heart ached. Come, Mommy will hug you. Don't cry anymore. Hearing her call, Yu immediately pushed Mu Yaja away and flew into her arms. He buried his little face in Yin Shishir's chest and rubbed his face against it contentedly. Mu Yaja's face turned ashen when he saw the little guy intimately burying his face in Yin Shishir's chest. This little rascal was not picky about the place to act coquettishly. Yin Shishir did not notice Mu Yaja's displeased expression. She lowered her head and kissed the little guy's forehead. She gently said, Yu, don't cry anymore, okay? Okay. Yu will listen to Mommy. Yu's tears turned into laughter. Good boy. Yin Shishir coaxed the little lad into giggling with just a few words. When Mu Yaja saw this scene, the corners of his lips twitched fiercely, but he didn't have any temper left. However, he didn't know why, but when he saw the mother and son's bright smiles, his chest was filled with an inexplicable feeling. Xiao Yichen hugged him gently. Mu Yaja lowered his head and heard Xiao Yichen ask shyly, Daddy, do you like little brother? Upon hearing this, Mu Yaja subconsciously glanced at Yin Tianyou before lowering his head. His eyes were filled with gentleness as he answered, Yes, I like it. I like Mommy too. As Xiao Yichen spoke, a hint of nervousness and hesitation appeared on his little face. Then, Daddy, can we keep doing this? Mu Yaja raised a brow and hummed in acknowledgement. Clearly, he did not understand the meaning behind his words. Feeling a little bashful, Little Yichen lowered his head and fiddled with his tiny fingers. His voice was muffled but full of anticipation. Daddy, I like it like this. The four of us are so happy together. Can we always be like this? Can we keep doing this? Daddy, Mommy, little brother, we can live in the same house and be happy every day. When he saw that Mu Yaja did not express his opinion immediately, he mistakenly thought that the latter was unwilling to do so. She immediately hugged his arm, raised her head, and begged in a pleading tone. His ability to express himself was not as good as Yin Tianyou's, but Mu Yaja still understood the meaning behind his words. Xiao Yichen wanted their family of four to be together forever. Can't we? Xiao Yichen likes Mommy and little brother a lot. Daddy, you like Mommy and little brother too. Then can we be together forever? We'll never be apart, okay? Okay. Mu Yaja nodded. Chapter 728. Yin Shishir raised her head and looked at the father and son inquisitively. Her attention was focused on Yu just now, so she obviously did not hear the conversation between the father and son. Xiao Yichen pretended to be mysterious and smiled. It's a secret. Ever since the slapping incident on the set that day, Yan Bingqing had been put under house arrest by Mu Yaja. However, she did not seem to realize the seriousness of the matter, and was still a little fearless. After all, Yan Bingqing did not believe that Mu Yaja would suppress her because of Yin Shishir. He was just trying to scare her. Besides, so what if everyone accused her of deliberately slapping Yin Shishir? Was there any evidence? So what if it was an NG video taken on the set? When the time came, she could explain that she was too engrossed in her acting that she did not pay attention to her strength and slapped Yin Shishir too hard. Even if Mu Yaja wanted to use public opinion to suppress her, she could completely wash her hands of this matter. With her status and fan base, how could she lose to a newcomer who had just debuted? Yan Bingqing comforted herself. Everything was fine now. After this incident, she would be able to return to normal. She guessed that Yin Shishir might have a close relationship with Muyaja. Most of the upper-class rich people had a taste like Yin Shishir. She was pure and refined. Perhaps Muyaja was Yin Shishir's sugar daddy. However, Muyaja would never do anything to Yin Shishir. After all, Muyaja was the crown prince of the richest family in the capital city. Grandpa Mu had already ordered many times that no actress in the entertainment industry could enter the entertainment industry. What did this mean? It meant that no actress in the entertainment industry had the right to enter the Mu family. Muyaja was just fooling around with Yin Shishir. Even if Yin Shishir was the reincarnation of a vixen and had the ability to seduce people, so what? The Mu family's threshold was so high. Could she enter the Mu family? Muyaja had a fiancé, didn't he? Although she was not his fiancé in name, no one could change her status. If Muyaja dared to protect Yin Shishir openly and suppressed her, and the news spread to the Mu family, would Grandpa Mu be able to sit still? However, every time Yin Bingqing thought of the day when Muyaja looked at her with a murderous look in his eyes, she lost her confidence. She had a nagging feeling that Yin Shishir held a special place in the man's heart. She more or less regretted it. If she had known that Yin Shishir was related to Muyaja, she would not have laid a finger on her no matter what. Now, she could only hope that this matter would blow over as soon as possible. Lin Fengtian sent the videotape of that day to Dishing Building. Muyaja carefully browsed through the NGs of that scene on set that day. After watching it once, his eyes became deeper and his face was as cold as frost. Especially his thin lips. The line of his lips was cold and stiff. Minyu, who was standing beside him, also frowned. Deliberate. It was too deliberate. The onlooker saw more clearly than the person involved. Yin Bingqing might not know how much strength she had used. However, in the eyes of outsiders, especially those crisp and powerful sounds, it was very frightening. Looking at those shocking scenes, they felt as if their faces had been slapped a few times just by looking at them. It was boiling hot, and they felt as if they had experienced it themselves. Chapter 729. To be able to perforate someone's eardrum. This Yin Bingqing was quite capable. Muyaja narrowed his eyes, unable to suppress the anger in his heart. Minyu asked, "Boss, what do you say? Do you want to teach her a lesson?" "I have my own plans." Muyaja closed his eyes deeply, opened his thin lips slightly, and spat out a few words coldly. "This time I want her reputation to be ruined." Not long after, Yin Bingqing's house arrest was lifted. When Yin Bingqing returned to the studio, she did not hear any news. Thinking that this matter was over, she could not help but heave a sigh of relief. She knew it. What could a mere Yin Shishir do to her? Could she turn the world upside down? However, a few days later, her manager found out from somewhere that Huanyu Entertainment was holding an internal meeting to prepare a draft overnight. They were determined to ruin Yin Bingqing's reputation. The news came from the inside, so it was naturally reliable. Yin Bingqing's manager, Mo Yen, was also a ruthless character. The public relations team behind him was very strong. Even when he took over Yin Bingqing, there were many scandals about her. However, under their packaging, Yin Bingqing's popularity soared. Now she had jumped to the top. Mo Yan's hard work was great. It was obvious that Mo Yan was not to be trifled with. Having been in this industry for so many years, he naturally had a wide network of contacts. He even had spies in the higher-ups of Huanyu. When he found out about this, he was very nervous. However, he could only find out so much. He did not know how Huanyu Entertainment was going to deal with her. Hence, he quickly found Yin Bingqing and asked her to go to the hospital to apologize sincerely to Yin Shishir. When Yin Bingqing heard this, it was as if she had heard the biggest joke in the world. She sneered. "Are you kidding me? Is there something wrong with your brain? You want me to apologize to a newbie who can't hear the rumors? I won't do it." Mo Yan was both angry and anxious. He coaxed. "Bingqing, why are you still throwing a tantrum at this point? You've offended Muyaja. It's not like you don't know what that man is capable of. It was better to take a step back before things got out of hand and not blow things up. Moreover, you're the one who made a mistake in this matter. You've caused me such a big mess. I've been running around a lot these past few days, because of this matter." Yin Bingqing pondered for a moment. Her expression was a little displeased as she sneered. You're obviously blaming me for this? Bingqing, I didn't mean that. Don't talk nonsense. That's exactly what you meant. Yan Bingqing slammed the table angrily. She stood up and complained. Mo Yan, we've been old partners for so many years. I've always obeyed whatever you asked me to do. But you're asking me to apologize to a newbie. If word gets out, where will I put my face? It's not a matter of face now. You've offended Muyaja's people. You're filming a scene, but you've punched her eardrum so hard that she's lying in the hospital. You didn't even say anything. How do you expect me to clean up the mess for you? Pierced eardrum? How can it be so serious? Yan Bingqing narrowed her eyes suspiciously. She obviously did not believe it. Mo Yan rebuked. Don't you know how much strength you have? Chapter 730. Her nonchalant tone showed that she did not have any self-awareness at all. He was going to die from anger. This Yan Bingqing was now very popular in the entertainment industry, and her personality was getting more and more arrogant. He understood her character and knew that she would get into trouble sooner or later. However, he did not expect her to offend the Mu family's crown prince. Wasn't she just asking for trouble? Mo Yan was so angry that he could hardly breathe. Sweating profusely, he paced back and forth anxiously. Finally, he let out a long sigh and sat down in front of Yan Bingqing. He said earnestly, Bingqing, don't be too stubborn. If it were someone else, I could still help you deal with it. But this Muyaja, if he gives the order to ban you, even the best public relations team can't protect you. Yan Bingqing was skeptical. Is he that powerful? What do you think? Mo Yan widened his eyes. That's the crown prince of Dishing Financial Group. He's a big shot with great power and influence. If he says he wants to ban you, who would dare to say no? Why would he ban me? Yin Shishir is a newbie in Huanyu, and I'm Huanyu's big sister. Could it be that Huanyu wants to ban me for an unknown newcomer? I'm Huanyu's biggest cash cow now. Why would they ban me? Yan Bingqing lost control and questioned him repeatedly. Mo Yan was silent. Tell me, why? Why are there so many whys in this industry? Mo Yan sneered. Yan Bingqing, you've been in the entertainment industry for so many years. Don't you understand? There are so many people who are prettier, better looking, and more capable than you. Why are you the only one who's famous? Why? There's no why. There's only based on what? Mo Yan stood up, his emotions a little out of control. Because you met me when you debuted. Because you have Yang Shouqing backing you up. Don't you understand? This industry doesn't look at what you're capable of, but how strong your backing is. In terms of background and backing, you've lost. Now going to the hospital to apologize to Yin Shishir is the only way to protect yourself. Do you understand? Yan Bingqing was stunned. I've spent so many resources on you. I've used so many methods to package you. You have so many dark histories. Which one of them wasn't cleared by me? It wasn't easy for you to become famous. Do you know how difficult it was? Are you proud of yourself? But other than causing trouble for me all the time, you also offend people everywhere. Forget about the other small fries. You even dared to offend Muyaja's people. Yan Bingqing, can you work harder for me? I packaged you to make money, not to lose money. I haven't recovered my capital from you yet. Yan Bingqing was startled and looked at him with a pale face. Mo Yan ignored the embarrassment on her face and said coldly, It's fine if you maintain your image in front of the public, but why are you acting like a big shot in front of me? Do you really think you're a princess? In my eyes, you're just a product. I've invested in you, so you have to let me see returns. If there's no return, why would I support you? Water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. Yan Bingqing, if you force me into a corner, don't blame me for not taking our old friendship into account. Go ahead and act. You might as well court your own death. You make it sound nice. Chapter 731. There was a moment of silence in the room, as the two of them looked at each other in silence. After a while, Mo Yan said helplessly, Take it that I'm begging you. Don't let our previous efforts go to waste because of this matter. Yan Bingqing took a deep breath and said indifferently, All right. If you want me to apologize, I'll go and apologize now. That's more like it. When Mo Yan and Yan Bingqing rushed to the door of the ward, and saw a group of bodyguards standing there. Yan Bingqing's heart was still pounding. "Let's go in." Mo Yin patted her on the shoulder. Yan Bingqing pursed her lips and went forward to knock on the door. "Who is it?" "Just come in." Yin Shishir's voice came from inside. Yan Bingqing pushed the door open. However, the first thing she saw was Mu Yaja sitting at the head of the bed, while Yin Shishir was nestled in his arms comfortably and scrolling through Weibo on her phone. The weather was hot. Mu Yaja had specially ordered someone to buy iced watermelon. After cutting it into pieces, he held a fruit plate in his left hand and a fork in his right hand and carefully fed her piece by piece. That careful look and every movement of his was extremely protective. He served her well regardless of the big or small matters. He looked just like a henpecked husband. As for Yin Shishir, she was lying in his arms and scrolling through Weibo. From time to time, she would open her mouth to welcome the watermelon he fed her. She was extremely comfortable. When Yan Bingqing saw this scene, she was stunned on the spot. Even Mo Yen, who was behind her, widened his eyes in an exaggerated manner. He could not believe his eyes at all. Mu Yaja, who was rumored to be swift and decisive and cold, had actually put down his arrogance to serve someone at this moment. He could not believe what he was seeing. In her impression, this man had always been high and mighty, just like the crown prince of the empire, noble and arrogant. However, at this moment, this man, who had always been able to call the shots in the business and political circles, was actually serving a woman so dotingly, allowing her to do whatever she wanted in his arms. Those hands, which had played with so many bloody storms, actually put down the fruit plate at this moment, carefully peeled the orange peel, and fed the peeled flesh into her mouth piece by piece. Are they the same person? Mo Yin wondered if the man in front of him was really Mu Yaja. When Yin Shishir saw that it was Yan Bingqing, the smile on her face instantly faded. She slowly sat up in Mu Yaja's arms and stared at her warily. Seeing her get up, Mu Yaja also looked up. When he saw Yan Bingqing and Mo Yin standing at the door in a daze, he frowned slightly in displeasure at their untimely interruption. "What are you doing here?" Yin Shishir looked at Yan Bingqing warily and asked suspiciously. Yan Bingqing opened her mouth, wanting to say something but hesitated. Mo Yin, who was beside her, cleared his throat and immediately stated the purpose of his visit. When he opened his mouth, it was nothing more than to make a statement and represent Yan Bingqing. What he said was nothing more than hypocritical and high-sounding words. Yin Shishir, on the other hand, sat calmly by the bed with her legs crossed elegantly. Her neither humble nor humble posture made Yan Bingqing feel even more disgusted. This feeling of inferiority was nauseating. Originally, she had come this time to obey Mo Yan's arrangement. After all, she was really afraid that Huanyu would really take action and ban her. Mu Yaja could ban someone with just a few words, but her life was over. However, now that she saw Yin Shishir's cold expression, she felt especially upset. Chapter 732. She seemed to have never been so humble to anyone before. "Hello, Miss Yin. I'm Bingqing's manager. I came to the hospital with Bingqing today to visit you, Miss Yin. Secondly, I'm here to apologize on behalf of Bingqing and Miss Yin for the unpleasantness that happened on the set. At the same time, I'm here to apologize to Miss Yin. I think that all of this is just a misunderstanding. Since it's a misunderstanding, why don't we turn it into a small one? In the future, we'll all see each other on the set. I hope that Miss Yin will be magnanimous and forgive Bingqing for offending you. I only hope that the situation won't be too embarrassing. Don't you think so, Miss Yin?" Mo Yin said with a smile. He looked at Yin Shishir with an amiable smile and said gently, "Miss Yin, what do you think?" Yin Shishir's expression turned cold. Oh, that's it. Her cold attitude made Yan Bingqing even more flustered. She couldn't help but raise her chin slightly, obviously unwilling to lower her stance too much. Mo Yin was stunned. "Miss Yin, we're really apologizing to you very sincerely. Bingqing did something wrong." "Something wrong?" Yin Shishir cut him off and picked out the main point. She sneered and muttered to herself. No. Mo Yin was forced to break out in a sweat. He immediately explained, "Bingqing has indeed gone overboard, so I brought her here to apologize to you. I think there must be some kind of misunderstanding." Yin Shishir tilted her head slightly. Her eyes were tinged with mockery as she said quietly, "So you're saying that you can take action just because of a misunderstanding, huh?" Mo Yin was speechless for a moment. This was originally just an excuse to go through the motions. Who would have thought that she would be so calculative about it? Even though he had seen many situations, he didn't know how to respond for a moment. He only pursed his lips awkwardly and said nicely, "Miss Yin, Bingqing has also come to see you personally to apologize to you. This shows that she has deeply realized her mistake. It's great to know one's mistake and correct it. Why don't you resolve this conflict and be friends?" Be friends? Yin Shishi's lips curled up slightly, and her eyes narrowed faintly. "Oh, since you keep saying that you want to apologize, but I don't see any sincerity." After pausing for a moment, she changed the topic and her cold gaze slowly fell on Yin Bingqing. Word by word she said, "Sister Bingqing, are you really here to apologize to me?" Yin Bingqing had been secretly sizing her up. Seeing her turn the conversation to her, she couldn't help but be startled. Her face turned ashen as she tightly clenched her fists, unable to squeeze out a single word for a long time. Yin Shishi raised her eyebrows and reminded him patiently, Sister Bingqing, are you here to apologize?" Mu Yaja acted as if Mo Yin and Yin Bingqing did not exist. He lazily hugged Yin Shishi's shoulders and fed her another grape. Yin Bingqing saw the unseen doting love that he had for her. She was jealous and angry at the same time. Apologize. She wanted her to apologize. What kind of joke was this? She was already giving face by listening to Mo Yin, but she actually wanted her to apologize? She couldn't swallow her pride for a moment. If Mu Yaja wasn't here, she might have cursed. Yin Shishi glanced at her and understood what she was thinking at this moment. She smiled. Chapter 733. Sister Bingqing, even if you haven't received higher education, your teacher must have taught you to respect others when you were young. There are some things that you should do and some that you shouldn't do. You should be clear about that, right? If you don't even understand the basic principles of being a human, I advise you to continue with your compulsory education. Besides, your manager said that you're here with sincerity. I don't know what you mean by this attitude. Yin Shishi's expression was indifferent, and there was a faint smile on her lips. Her words were like sharp thorns that stabbed fiercely into Yin Bingqing's heart. Yin Bingqing couldn't help but be enraged. A nameless fire burned between her brows. What did she mean by that? What did she mean by the principles of being a human? Was she implying that her actions weren't human? Even Mo Yin broke out in a cold sweat when he heard that. Yin Shishi's words were polite on the surface, but there was obvious sarcasm and provocation in her words. She didn't even use a vulgar word. However, her words were like pearls and very reasonable. He just couldn't deny it. Besides, this matter was Yin Bingqing's fault to begin with. They didn't even have the right to refute it. Seeing that Mo Yin didn't say anything, Yin Bingqing became even more anxious. Did he really want her to apologize to a mere newbie? Not only did she embarrass her, but she also didn't give her a way out. The reason why she was willing to come along was that she thought that Mo Yin would be able to settle the matter by apologizing on her behalf. This Yin Shishi was clearly trying to embarrass her. Yin Bingqing glared at Yin Shishi angrily, only to see her looking at her indifferently. Her eyes were cold, and there was a cold glint in her eyes from time to time. That coldness was like the tip of a blood-stained knife in the middle of the winter night, piercing into one's bones and causing one's heart to turn cold. For a moment, Yin Bingqing was shocked by the sharp glint in her eyes. In fact, Yin Shishi was never a timid person. On set, she was giving face to Yin Bingqing. During filming, no matter how hard Yin Bingqing hit her, she did not say anything to stop filming. Because this was her job, she respected everyone on the set. This was her principle. But Yin Bingqing had gone too far. She had slapped her repeatedly in the name of filming. Now she said she was here to apologize, but she didn't have any sincerity. Yin Shishi said slowly, "Sister Bingqing, has no one taught you how to apologize?" Yin Bingqing bit her lip and looked at her, then at Mu Yaja. However, the man only looked at Yin Shishi dotingly, and did not look at her at all. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little tense, Mo Yin stepped forward and gently pushed Yin Bingqing in front of Tang Wei. He coughed softly and reminded her, Bingqing, hurry and apologize to Miss Yun. Yan Bingqing's chest swelled with pain. She clenched her fists so tightly that her sharp nails almost pierced through her palms. She suddenly took a deep breath and spat out a few words through gritted teeth. I'm sorry for that. Her stiff tone was as if she wanted to cut Yun Shirshir into pieces. Every word was filled with needles. Your apology is too soft. It's not sincere enough. Yun Shirshir said aggrievedly. My left eardrum is perforated, so my hearing is weakened and hasn't recovered yet. Can you speak louder? Chapter 734. Yan Bingqing's heart was already burning with rage. If no one else was around, she would have already lost control and taught this ignorant B***th a good lesson. However, she still maintained a trace of rationality. Mo Yan's advice before she came was still vivid in her ears. Muyaja was still around. Even if it was for Muyaja's sake, she had to endure it. With that thought in mind, Yan Bingqing tried hard to put on a stiff smile. She lowered her head slightly and said word by word. Yun Shirshir, what happened before was my fault. I'm sorry. That's not a sincere apology, Yun Shirshir said lazily. I didn't hear it. Yan Bingqing gritted her teeth and took a deep breath. The humiliation in her heart was almost burning. I'm sorry. I didn't hear it. I'm sorry. You're still too soft. Speak louder. Yan Bingqing gritted her teeth and raised her voice. It almost shook the entire ward. I'm sorry. Yun Shirshir didn't seem to want to let it go just like that. She curled her lips and said, Why is it that you're clearly apologizing, but looking at your expression, it's obvious that you want to cut me into pieces? You, Yan Bingqing, no one is forcing you to apologize. If you're not sincere, the door is behind you, Yun Shirshir said slowly. Muyaja couldn't help but laugh. He knew very well that she had heard Yan Bingqing's apology. However, she pretended not to hear it on purpose. Obviously, she wanted to get back at Yan Bingqing for all the grievances she had suffered previously. She also knew in her heart that Yan Bingqing was being so polite to her because of Muyaja. She did not have enough face to make Yan Bingqing lower her head and compromise to her in such a submissive manner. However, this was her character. If she didn't take revenge, she wasn't a gentleman. No matter what method he used, could he expect her to be magnanimous enough to forgive someone who had hurt her? What's more, Yan Bingqing's apology wasn't very sincere. It was nothing more than a show of politeness on the surface. Who knows, maybe she was gnashing her teeth and itching to skin her alive. Muyaja saw her flaunting her power in front of Yan Bingqing. He knew that she was using his power as a tool. However, he loved the way this woman used his backing to bully others. At the very least, it gave him a sense of being relied on. The feeling of being relied on was not bad. He loved this feeling. He couldn't help but reach out and hug her shoulders. If there were any outsiders here, he would probably be unable to resist kissing her cute and tender lips. Yan Bingqing saw the indulgence and love in his eyes for Yun Shirshir, and her heart was filled with jealousy and hatred. A man like Muyaja was the cream of the crop, the cream of the crop. The entertainment industry wasn't as simple as the outside world thought. The celebrities in this industry all had powerful backing. Even though Yan Bingqing was stunningly beautiful, she wasn't born to be an actress. Her acting skills were poor, and her popularity had always been lukewarm. It was only after she hooked up with Yang Shouqing, and he gave her a lot of resources, that she had a chance to make a comeback. Moreover, the public relations team behind him had created an outstanding image for her, so she had a chance to jump to the top. However, Yang Shouqing was old, ugly, and perverted. He couldn't even compare to a finger of Muyaja.